This is being live streamed on YouTube and through channel 34, and login for the meeting is available on the township website, along with the agenda for the meeting and the applicant materials. The secretary, Mr. Petto, has taken a leave of absence, so our assistant secretary, Ms. Talley, is filling his role. Ms. Talley, could you please call the roll?
Sure. Chair Bennett, I know she's excused and she'll be participating later. Vice Chair Heineman.
Present.
Mr. Rooney.
Here.
Mr. Greenbaum. Ms. Caroline Kane-Levy.
Here.
Mr. Reimnitz.
Here.
Okay.
Okay, so the first order of business is approval of the minutes from the September 24th, 2020 meeting. Has everybody had a chance to review those?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Does anybody have any comments or revisions?
No.
No.
Well, I did.
Okay.
And this is in the resolution for 59 Church Street, 65 Church Street project.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just curious, what happened at the planning board with that? Has it been reviewed? John, did you go to a hearing for that?
No, David went. I wasn't able to attend.
No, it was a regular meeting, and we went through, and they went ahead and approved it.
Wait a minute. You're talking about 59 Church Street?
Right. It went through they're going to come back many times.
Yeah. We just started the architectural testimony.
Right.
They have to come back with further architectural testimony, additional exhibits, and we haven't gotten to any of the other experts.
Right.
So, Steve, when you say they approved it, what is that? What do you mean?
Well, they seem to not taking offense to it. There wasn't actual, like the massing seemed to be pretty much okay. It was same sort of thing that you were talking about, wanting more details on the building, but the massing itself.
I think there was a concern about the building materials and the color.
Yeah, building materials and colors and things like that.
We had a lot of opinions.
Yeah.
So,
And there'll be many more opinions.
So ultimately, I mean, we have a comment in here that some of us wanted to see it again and others didn't. And I'm not sure why we would say we don't want to see it again, or at least a committee to see it again, because there will be so many changes. If
Caroline, I don't want to rehash that debate. We're just going over whether the minutes were an accurate reflection of what was discussed at the meeting.
There were a couple of other, like items 1 and 4 in that resolution. I don't know if we came to a consensus on some of those things, and so making these recommendations, I didn't agree with them, and I don't think we came to a consensus.
Yeah, so it doesn't go anywhere.
Well,
But
maybe we can adjust the language in it to say certain things, like item number 1, the fenestration pattern for the building, particularly the front 3-story brick portion of the building, should be reviewed to incorporate additional balance of the window openings.
Right.
One thought that was the one portion of the building that was okay. And I agree with items 2, 3, 4. I'm not sure if it would benefit from a cornice with this massing at the top. So maybe adding that additional detail and the incorporation of a parapet or cornice treatment should be studied rather than.
I don't
So-
think that we can actually change these minutes that much. But I mean, I understand your concern, and you're more than welcome to come to the planning board meeting.
Do the minutes mimic the report that the HPC sent on this, or is this just summarizing what was discussed at the meeting?
Oh,
I have not seen the report that was sent, so I can't comment on that.
Perhaps it should say, starting at line 45, however, the commission discussed
Yeah,
the following
yeah.
rather than recommends.
Yeah, but yeah. However, the commission discussed the following proposed revisions. We'll just leave it general like that.
well,
How about just leave it? Why don't we say discuss the following?
Yeah.
Because it's really not even a revision.
Mm-hmm.
no, it's not a revision yet.
Okay. All right. This was part of the discussion, not necessarily recommendations. That's true.
Right.
I thought we had some language about providing some additional green space
Yes,
at the front of the building. Is that here someplace?
yes, it's
Mhm.
too.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay. Okay.
So I think we should just leave it. The commission discussed the following, and then
Right.
that's it. Do you agree, Jason? Is that clear?
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve the minutes as amended?
Motion to approve as amended.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay.
The next order of business on the agenda is public comment. Janice, do you want to open it up for public comment? I don't know if there's a raise hand feature on that.
I can, yes, hold on. I will unmute everybody. Hello, attendees. I've just unmuted everybody. Does anybody here have something to say as part of public comment before we get to your applications? Anybody here with public comment, not associated with an application that's being considered before the board? Okay, Jason.
Yep, hearing no request for public comment, I move to close the public comment portion of the proceeding. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none. Any abstentions? Hearing none. The next item on the agenda is committee reports. Steve, I know we'd already discussed the Church Street application, but was there anything else from the planning board that you want to report?
That was the major portion of the meeting. So you can tell it's going to be going on for quite some time. Or just an introduction. But they seem to be amenable. Not being upset about asking to do stuff we might want them to do.
And the application, the next hearing is November 9th.
Right.
Next committee report on revisions. John, I think Caroline emailed, or Kathleen emailed you about revision. I think you had a meeting.
I'm not, as far as I know, on the revisions committee.
No, I meant Kathleen emailed John. I was asking if John had anything to report on revision.
I believe the revisions committee met to discuss the changes to, John, what was it?
The Hampton House.
The Hampton House,
Yeah,
that's right.
yeah, Kathleen and I met the contractor and the owner's rep there last week sometime, and along with Tom Connolly was there as well. We looked at what was going on, the spandrel glass at the bottom of the building, the new storefront, the existing cast stucco panels, and the windows that form the horizontal bands up above the first floor. In terms of the windows above the first floor that are the combination awning and hopper windows, the owner is taking out all those windows. He is going to sandblast all the metal. He's going to re-powder coat these windows. He's going to, on the inside, install insulated glass panels, and he's putting exactly back what's there. That's a major job. So he's not replacing them to look similar. He's restoring. He's restoring them. You know, it's amazing what's going on there. In terms of, there's some other things like there's been some damage to some of the precast panels at the lower level. We discussed that, and it seemed like they thought they would be able to cast back patches and make them essentially disappear. We'll see about that. They seem to be motivated. They seem to really care about this building and want to do the right thing. The lower level, the spandrel glass, I would say 80% of the special red color spandrel glass at the bottom is damaged in some way. We asked them to save what was not damaged and to match in kind and color, which they're doing. They found this company that makes custom spandrel glass, and their material and color. And again, it's amazing. They have to order 10,000 square feet of custom color when they only need, I don't know what they need, 1,000 square feet. So they're going to have to just order all that, keep it to the side, and use what they can. So there doesn't seem to be much in the way of, not to talk about money, but they seem to be, there's no, they're spending a lot of, it looks like they're spending a lot. We went inside the building to see what they were doing inside, and it is amazing what's going on inside this building. It is, if you can go over there and just introduce yourself, they're very proud of what they're doing. To go inside is a treat. They are, and you can tell from inside the building, the outside facade was not the original facade of the building.
Right.
It was a brick building with brick arches and infill windows, and but they are, it's some incredible spaces, and they're inside, they're doing what they're doing outside. Wherever they're replacing sort of original beams, they're actually fabricating these beams out of the same wood, the same texture. They're recreating sort of the lumber inside to match what's there. So it was a treat to go see what they're doing, and I think they're doing a fabulous job.
Wow.
Well, that's heartening to hear.
Yeah, if all our everything we saw was like that, it would be fabulous. But this is like amazing to me.
Do they have any tenants?
They had, before COVID, they
Mhm.
had tenants. The tenants have backed out, I understand, but they're still sort of interested. They're sort of, in the background, but I don't think they have any, no one signed up at the moment.
Okay.
That's my knowledge. So that's it. That's what we did.
That's
Caroline,
pretty exciting.
Yeah. Go see it.
I
Yeah.
think the last minor applications meeting was the first week of October. Is that right? Did you
Yes.
attend that?
I did. And we looked at 2 sign applications, one for coffee and cornbread, I believe, in the plaza near Bellevue Avenue, the Upper Montclair parking lot, the one that's
Mhm.
behind the movie theater. And then also there was another one, a chicken place on Bloomfield Avenue, I believe, 2 simple sign applications, which we approved.
And I think there's another that we're in the process of scheduling. Correct, Janice?
Yeah, we have three sign and awning applications that I'm trying to schedule for next week.
After this meeting, I'll take a look at my calendar.
Okay.
What's available. Steve, are you on the design review committee with David?
No.
No? Okay. So we'll skip that.
No.
Any other, the public outreach, is there anything going on with that? Steve, I know Kathleen usually.
Actually, well, I'm on the committee, but Kathleen's the one who knows where everything is.
Okay. So let's move on to the next item of the agenda, which is old business. There's none. So we'll move on to new business. And the first item is the referral from the Board of Adjustment, application 2693, 331 Grove Street. And the applicants are Matt and Victoria Weaver. Janice,
Okay.
can you bring them up?
Yes, I'm working on it. Mr. Weaver?
Yes, good evening, everyone.
Okay, hold on. Let me make you a panelist. Do you have anybody else that will be testifying or presenting with you?
I do, in fact. Our architect, John Guadagnoli, let me know that he is planning to be on the call, but I guess he's having trouble calling in, and our landscape architect, Lisa Myrop, is traveling. So
Let me see if John.
they were.
Let me see if John Guadagnoli is here. John?
Janice, can you hear me?
Yes, is this
We
John?
can.
There he is.
Yes, it is. I'm on my phone. We're having for some reason, it's not coming up on my iPad like usual, but I do have you on the phone, so that's fine.
Okay, John, I'm going to
Okay.
keep you unmuted so you can make your presentation.
Okay.
What I can do is I will pull up the plans.
Okay.
What I have here. Are you following on the screen?
Not yet. It's just not letting me install. It's just not letting me. It's asking for a number. I give it the number, and then it says you need to use a computer. You can't use your iPad. My wife is helping me on her laptop, and we're just having a struggle trying to get in. But I mean, I can talk you through it. I have the plans in front of me, the paper plans.
Okay.
I think I just closed. I accidentally closed that one. So hold on.
John, one of the things you could check is access you need to go on a browser like Chrome to actually access. I was trying to get on with Internet Explorer and it wouldn't let me get on. So.
Oh, you got to get on with Chrome.
Yeah, try that.
Not Explorer.
Yeah. If you're trying to get on with the floor, it's not going to let you on.
Oh, that's why. Okay.
So,
All
Mr.
right.
Guadagnoli,
That's another browser.
while you try and log on, I'll do the introduction to the application. Then I'll
Okay.
swear you in, and then hopefully by then you'll be able to pull up the screen. If not,
All right.
we have all the materials in front of us, and if you could talk us through that, then we could just go that way. So,
Yeah, that would be fine. I have all the drawings in front of me, the paper drawings, so
Great.
I could describe everything and answer any questions. That'd be fine.
all right. So this
Okay.
application's before the Board of Adjustment for bulk variance relief to construct a new in-ground swimming pool. I believe to demolish a shed and add additions to an existing shed to the rear of the dwelling. The subject property is a through lot located on the eastern side of Orange Road between the Willen Road to the south and Gates Avenue to the north. The through lot is also bounded by Elm Street
Well,
to the east.
Jason,
Yes?
are we looking at 331 Grove
Oh, I'm
Street?
sorry.
Or
I'm
you
looking at the wrong one.
you skipped one. I was
Yeah.
going, oh, what
I've
happened
got
there?
my packets out of order. Okay, so
Okay.
this one is for
It's for
Okay.
331 Grove Street,
Mhm.
2693.
Yep, this is yes.
Okay, I got you on my screen.
Okay,
Great.
fantastic.
Good.
I got it on the screen. Yeah.
Thank you, John. So this is for the corner property located on Grove Street in Prescott. It's also for a bulk variance for a deck addition to the rear of the existing dwelling. The property is currently developed with a two-story single-family dwelling with a two-car detached garage, and the applicant proposes to construct a new wood deck across the rear facade of the dwelling. The proposed deck will span the width of the dwelling, bringing the edge of the deck in line with the side of the existing building, which is also because it's a corner lot, it fronts Prescott Ave. The existing dwelling and the proposed decks would be, based on my review of the plan, approximately 24 feet, 3.5 inches from the setback line. The required setback for this property is 28.8 feet. So it's about a 4-foot pre-existing non-conformance that this deck is going to follow in line with. The subject property is located within the Marlboro Park Historic District, which is a national registered district and a state registered historic district. The district is recommended within our preservation element for local landmark designation. The nomination report for the historic district identifies this dwelling as a contributing building to the district. The report notes that the dwelling is a Dutch colonial style constructed around 1923 with brick and clapboard siding and a bracketed hood above the main entry. I understand for the applicant we have Mr. Weaver and Mr. Guadagnoli. Is Ira here, Janice? I don't think we.
Ira is not here.
Okay, so I'll go ahead and swear you both in. Mr. Weaver, Mr. Guadagnoli, if you could please both raise your right hands and answer after I give the oath. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony that you're going to give this commission will be truthful and accurate to the best of your ability?
Yes.
Mr. Guadagnoli?
Huh. John, yeah, I see. Oh, wait a minute. You know what? Let me, okay, John, I got you on as a panelist now.
Thank you. Okay. The answer is yes. I affirm.
Thank you. And earlier we heard Mr. Weaver, who is the homeowner and applicant. Mr. Guadagnoli, just for the record, could you state your affiliation to this application and your company?
Yeah. I'm the architect who prepared drawings for the applicant. The drawing you see in front of you was, I'm not sure what drawing you're seeing in front of you, actually.
Well, can you see, it should be the landscape plan that was done by Ms. Myrop.
Mirror design, yes.
And we see an elevation. We see some elevation drawing, deck elevation as well. At least that's what I got in my packet.
You got it in the packet, right?
I prepared the deck elevation drawing.
This one, right?
That's correct, yes.
Which one do you want? Which one do you want me to have up for your presentation?
Let's start with the other one.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. As you can see from the plan, the existing house is already too close to the corner lot, so we have two front yards. And based on the average setback of the two houses behind it along the street, it requires 4 more feet of setback than currently exists. The one who actually designed the deck, which is Lisa, was feeling that by not, it would be more detrimental to respect the setback than just go to the end, because the deck would have just wound up in the middle of one of those side windows and looked abysmal. And so by moving it out to the end, it just seemed a much more natural situation. The fact that we need 4 feet more than what's there is simply an accident of where they placed the other houses. The one house, two doors down, happens to be set back profoundly more than the others, so it kind of skewed the average, if you will. So that's really the hardship, is that we're kind of the victims of what another house a few doors. But we just thought that since you don't even really see the deck due to the fact there's a fence along the property line, and you could see in the plan that there are generous plantings along that fence, it would not even be visible, or you would not get the effect of there being a problem with proximity of the deck to the front yard. When I say front, I mean the side yard, but you know what I mean. So anyway, it was just a decision that the would really naturally fit better just going right to the corner than somewhere random in the middle. That's really the whole rationale for it.
I guess we'll open it up to questions, and or actually, yeah, we'll open it up to questions, and I'll start. Mr. Guagnoli, I understand that you're not the landscape architect, so to the extent you can answer this question, please do. If not, let me know. I believe there's an existing picket fence abutting the street where the setback issue is implicated, correct?
Yes.
And the shrubs that are proposed, how high above that picket fence are they expected to grow upon maturity?
Oh, you were right. I really can't speak to that. I really don't know. Yeah. Based on my discussion with Lisa, she seemed to feel that they would form a visual hedge, a visual block to the deck. How high they go exactly, I don't know.
The shrubs that Lisa has planted are laurels that will grow to about 10 feet high. The fence is not picket. It is complete privacy, white PVC fencing. So at this very moment, that meets town standards. I believe it is 4.5 or 5 feet high, and the laurel plantings are already above that. So essentially, there will be a green wall of the laurel plantings inside of the current PVC white fencing. So in many ways, you have two privacy factors, keeping the street on Prescott from visually seeing the fence or the deck that we're all discussing.
Okay. And one other question, and did you have an opportunity to review the report that Mr. Connolly provided for his review?
I did.
You did?
Yes.
And we're going to have Mr. Connolly speak to that report, but to the extent you have any answers to some of those questions or have additional details you would like to provide, I'd ask that you please provide that.
I have no like submissions, if that's what you mean, but I
No,
can answer.
if you just wanted to speak to any of those.
Yes, yes. One of the questions was the edge of the deck, that string line. He was mentioning it was too broad, and we'd be happy to reduce that to make it more balanced. And if as far as what the deck will look like in reality, I provided a photograph. If you look at the drawing of the elevation of the deck. A deck that I had done with Lisa Mirop already, and it would really essentially be identical to this. If you just look at that photograph in the elevational picture,
And there was also a color photo that was submitted, correct?
Yes, that's right. Lisa submitted that.
Okay.
John, did you say what the proposed materials are for the deck?
Everything is painted wood, or where some durability is needed, is AZEK, but there'll be no plastic or vinyl. All wood, all painted. Yes. The the spindles would be spaced 4.5 inches on center, left a gap of about 2.5 inches between them, which is, I think, nicer than the 4-inch legal requirement. It's a little more historic, and I think that would look better. The posts are as per what you see in the photograph. I mean, they have caps on them. They are spring posts with little faces. There's a chunky top and a chunky bottom. And, so the photograph kind of really gives you a very good illustration of what will be done.
I'll open it up to questions from some of the other commissioners, and I'll start.
I have a question, and the photograph you provided looks awfully real. Has this been constructed?
Yes, that's an actual project. Yes.
It's a different property, Steve.
Yes,
This is a different property.
But the same.
That's I was very confused.
It was done to give an example of what the
Materials would be.
This would look like the juxtaposition of the posts, the heights of the rails, the spacing,
Okay.
the lattice. Just to give you a picture. This is what it will look like.
And a question. You said that it really won't be visible from the street, but do you have a view from the street to show the fence that's presently there and how much you can see of this? Is that part of the presentation?
I have a picture that Lisa gave me. I don't know how I could illustrate it to you. Could I hold it up or something?
Yeah.
I don't know. Can we see you?
Yeah, we can't see
Yeah, you
you
have to
right now,
turn your screen
John.
on.
You have to turn your video on.
But it wasn't submitted.
I would be happy to submit one, but I don't have one to submit right now at this moment.
Yeah, actually, the picture I have is really taken from the corner of the property, so you don't really see the side in question. You see the front of the house more than the side. So I don't know how helpful this would be, but
Well, Dennis, I'd like to just raise this as a point because we've discussed many times amongst ourselves that often submissions are not complete and it makes it difficult to review things. And this is one of the things that I think would be very important for us to understand the impact on the streetscape. If it is in fact not visible, then it's a different thing. So just for the future, when things come in order to make a complete application, I think we need this sort of baseline information.
Yeah, the difficulty there, Caroline, is this is a zoning board application, so they have a different set of checklists. what I think we could do for this particular application is we could put that in our recommendations that they provide that it would get submitted to the zoning board for their hearing, and whoever goes to provide the HPC's recommendations at the zoning board hearing could review those photographs once submitted and weigh in on that. Steve, did you have any other questions?
No.
John, do you have any questions?
A couple questions. The deck material is wood?
Yes.
Okay. In Lisa's drawing, and I know you can't speak to this, she has a lot of different plants with abbreviations, but there's no way to tell what's what. I guess a question, we get these plans and they look like it looks like the owner's wants to do a really nice job of landscaping around his house. But again, we can't tell. Is it the intent that you're actually going to do all this landscaping?
Oh, yes, we've already begun with the laurel plantings and removed hedges and shrubs that have just have seen a better day in the past. So we've begun much of the restoration and the new plantings.
It's I guess this is a comment or a question. We don't have any. So when this is a question for Jason then. So you're saying when this comes from the Board of Adjustment or from zoning, they have their own set of requirements, and we're being asked as the HPC to comment on sort of, I don't even know what this house looks like. To say that this deck, goes with the house, I don't know. There's no information here. So is Jason still there?
I'm still here.
Okay, Jason, in this case, we're just making a recommendation, right? Recommendation.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I don't have any other questions right now.
Caroline, do you have any questions?
No, because I agree. I don't understand what the house looks like, and I don't understand the visibility from the street.
Mr. Greenbaum, do you have any questions?
Basically, my colleagues have pointed out exactly my concerns, is that we don't have any perspective from the street. So the very impact that we're here to evaluate, we don't have the tools to evaluate it. And the fact that the planning board, or in this case, the Board of Adjustment, has a different set of standards, we still have to have a set of standards in order to do our job. So it might make sense for us to have some normalization between our standards for any application that has to come to us from the Board of Adjustment or the planning board, so that we can at least adjudicate the application properly. So I concur with Caroline and with John. So I think it's not ripe to making a full evaluation here.
Are we making evaluation on the landscaping or the deck?
Both. I believe it's all being actually, Janice, the landscape element, is that before the board, or is it just for this? It's just for this the side yard variance for the deck.
That's really what it is.
It's actually a front yard variance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they submitted in support of the front yard variance. They submitted the landscaping plan, and that's essentially what they submitted to the Board of Adjustment. We've also submitted to you.
Mm-hmm. Well, so if the Board of Adjustment is considering the landscape plan, then I think that's something that is right for our review and comment. And, to the extent that it's material in order for us to provide recommendations.
John, what is the height of the deck?
Hey, David, can you mute when you're off, because all that plan, you're making a lot of noise.
Yeah.
Sorry.
The deck is about 27 or 28 inches above the grade.
And then you have, and what's the height of the railing?
3 feet. 36 inches.
So it'll be about 5 feet tall, even at the tallest point on the right-hand side. I'm not quite sure if that's the north side of the building.
About 5'4". Yeah. That's the lower portion of the deck, and then it steps up 2 steps toward that. So add another 15 inches for that. So,
So
yeah,
it's 6 feet tall.
that small portion in the back is about 6 feet tall, but the portion closest to the street, the thing we're concerned with, that's about 5'6" inches, 5'4" inches tall, 5'4".
Okay.
Top of the railing, yeah.
And Mr. Weaver, you said that is it skip laurels that you planted along the fence adjacent to the street?
2 weeks ago, Lisa Myrot planted 5-foot-high laurels, and she confirmed that they would grow from anywhere from 8 to 10, possibly 12 feet high.
Okay. I am very. I had the same situation, and I planted laurels along my property line, and they're about 10 feet tall right now. So.
Right.
Mr. Connolly, do you have any additional questions?
Additional questions? No, I just have what I presented in my report.
Okay, and based on the testimony that Mr. Guadagnoli provided in response, is there anything else that you would like to raise? I don't know if he addressed all of those points, so to the extent you want to.
Yeah, so I did visit the site, and this deck is absolutely visible from Prescott Avenue, the side street there. I don't think we should be paying attention at all to the landscaping, because landscaping's, could somewhat be temporary.
Right.
The deck we're building is permanent. And I will go through my comments. So the first comment was the submitted drawings made no reference to any proposed material. So it was somewhat hard to figure out exactly what's going on here. The second question, the detailed drawings of the proposed railing system should be provided, showing in detail the top, bottom, and balusters and posts. The photograph that was provided of the deck, that's similar. If you look closely, the posts are not as what's shown on the drawing, so they're slightly different. But as the architect mentioned, I guess the balusters, I was happy to hear that the spacing between the balusters was going to be about 2.5 inches, which is a traditional detail. So I'm fine with that. But I think we need to know more about the railing.
4.5 inches or 2.5 inches?
2.5 inches between the balusters. I don't know what they are. I guess they're square, 1 inch, 1.5 inch square, 2 inches square. I have no idea.
1 3/4. Yeah.
My comment number 3, the proposed deck really should be designed with a series of individual masonry piers, which is if you look in this neighborhood at the front porches and again, this is a listed district. So we want to be consistent with what's in this neighborhood. So I'm suggesting the proposed deck be designed with a series of masonry piers, and that in between the piers, it should be framed with lattice as it's shown here. But the lattice traditionally would have a frame. So I think that's something that actually should happen, because that's what you would typically see on porches and decks in this neighborhood.
Right.
And those are traditional details. Comment number 4, the skirt board looked a little large to me. Traditionally, it's about 8 inches. This looked to be about 12. Again, there was no dimensions provided, so couldn't really tell. The plan that's shown on the landscape plan and the plan or the elevation differs somewhat with regards to handrails and balusters and at the stair. And my last comment was traditionally the deck boards run perpendicular to the house, not parallel. The deck that's been designed is more of a present day kind of way of designing decks, but we want to be more traditional here. So that's what my comments are based on.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Before I open up to members of the public, any other questions from the commission?
No,
No, I'm fine.
not for me.
Janice, can you open up the meeting for questions from the public? And these are
Okay.
questions only.
Okay, so I've opened attendees, I've unmuted you. So anybody who has a question regarding this application, this is your opportunity to ask a question.
Any comments? All right, hearing none, we'll close the public portion of this application, and we'll move on to comments and deliberation from the commissioners. Mr. Rooney, do you have any comments?
I agree with Mr. Conley's comments with the masonry piers. I think it's more in keeping with the age of the building and the era. And it's hard for. I like the idea of he was talking about running the boards away from the house instead of parallel. I think that was actually a good idea to drain water away from the house. So, other than that,
Ms. Kane-Levy?
I don't have problems with it as it is. It's not a front porch, it is a rear deck. So I don't think it has to, be absolutely historically accurate. I wish I could see what it would look like on the house, so I'm hesitant to make any kind of recommendations at this point. I just don't feel confident about that. But and in terms of the decking itself, that is in no way visible from any public thoroughfare. So I don't feel like it's a recommendation that I would offer with this applicant.
Mr. Reinitz, any comments?
I agree with Tom's presentation. I'm inclined to say something to the effect that I don't recommend it at all because I don't know what I'm looking at. I suspect it's all great, but for me to say anything more than that, I have no idea what the house looks like. I don't know if it fits the house. I don't know. As far as the setback and stuff, I think that's I think it's the average of two houses or 25 feet, I think. And it's the average of two houses that's catching them by just a little bit. So I guess I would just support Tom Conley's recommendations. And beyond that, I don't know at what point we say no to presentations that come before us that I don't know what we're doing. We're sort of looking at this and saying, oh yeah, it looks fine. Could be worse. It looks fine. We don't know. So Caroline, you're muted. So you have to.
All right. What if we were to say that we're in support of whatever the variance is, and that the details would come back to a committee to see how it would look?
I agree.
So
Yeah, that's how I was kind of leaning, that, you know, in principle, we don't have an objection to the variance. However, the commission couldn't fairly judge the merits of the application because there just simply wasn't enough information, and then also recommending that they provide the street views as requested, and that it come back for materials. Mr. Greenbaum, do you have any additional comments?
I think I have to emphatically support John's position, and that is that we're really not able to make a true. We're not really giving the best judgment without information, and without a photograph from the two various points of reference, the Grove Street and the Prescott, you know, in the neighbor yard, we're not in a position to really gauge the impact this has, and without a picture of the elevation of the house, we're not able to look at it in terms of its consistency with the fabric and the aesthetic of the home. So we're really only looking at it, you know, from a plan point of view, and we're liable to make a bad decision with less than good information. So their solution is one way to address it, and I support that. But in the future, I don't think it's fair for us to be even spending our time looking at an application without the information that we need to properly adjudicate it.
Thank you, Mr. Greenbaum. Chair Bennett, I noticed that you've popped up in the meeting. Were you able to catch the beginning of the presentation, or will you be abstaining? You're on mute, Kathleen.
Okay, I was able to hear everything, and yes, I do agree that there's insufficient documentation. I noticed that the picture was not correct and of the home. I do think that I concur with Mr. Greenbaum that we're looking at these things and we don't have enough information to make a educated decision. So I do agree with Tom's remarks, and I would move that we ask that it come back to us with the, or come back to a committee, probably would be better with the proper documentation. I mean, we all know we've all seen it now. So I think a smaller committee would be able to, you know, make the decision on what the details are of the project. That's it for me.
Thank you. So, because this is before the zoning board, we actually aren't making a determination. We're just giving them our recommendations. So, in terms of crafting those recommendations, you know, as I said before, my thought is to provide that preamble about, you know, not having an objection to the variance in principle, but providing that we actually don't have the information that we need to fairly judge the application, and then recommend that they provide, you know, prior to their zoning board hearing, pictures of the street view, pictures of the front and side facade, and the list of materials, and then also attach the recommendations from Mr. Connolly's report.
Okay, I agree. Are we opening that up for resolution?
Yeah, we'll open that for discussion. We don't necessarily need a resolution.
Okay, well, I agree with everything you just said.
So then, Jason, are you proposing that this comes back with the details and the materials and the street view to like the minor review?
Yeah, like revisions committee, but you know, we would put in the recommendation that it just comes back for
Okay,
the commission.
so to the revisions committee. Good.
Janice, were you able to get all that? I can go over it again.
I got the gist of it. I think I
Okay.
have it, and I can draft it and send it out for review next week.
Okay. Thank you. So that concludes our review of this application. Mr. Guadagnoli, Mr. Weaver, thank you for your time, and a report will be prepared and issued to the zoning board, and you'll be copied on that. Just outline the recommendations. Thank you. So, moving on to the next item of our agenda, the referral from the Board of Adjustment, application 2694. This is 229 Orange Road. The applicant is Frank Greene. And while I get that prepared,
could I ask everyone to mute when they're not speaking, because I'm hearing all sorts of background noise. So when you speak, unmute yourself. Suggestion.
Janice, are the applicants here?
Yes, hold on, Mr. Greene.
Give me one moment.
Mr. Greene?
Hi, this is Frank Greene.
Okay, I've unmuted you.
Great.
And do
And we
you
also
have
have
anybody?
Michael.
Do you have
Oh, yeah,
anybody
sorry.
here? Do you have anybody here with you? Michael O'Brien, is he with you?
Yes, Michael O'Brien is with me. Thank you very much.
I'll unmute him as well.
Good evening, everybody.
All right, so I'm going to make, hold on, Mr. Greene. I don't know, for some reason, Mr. Greene, I can't make you a panelist, but I will keep you unmuted.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Okay. Now, if you could tell me which, as you make your presentation, which exhibits you want me to bring up for.
So why don't we start with the architectural plans that were done by Babula Architecture?
Do we need to swear people in here?
Before we start, let me just give the overview of the application, which you know I already started half of it.
Okay.
We'll swear the witness in. We'll find out if there are any other witnesses. We'll swear them in, and then we'll get started. So this is the application for a bulk variance to construct a new in-ground swimming pool and additions to the shed in the rear of the property. The variance is necessitated by the fact that this is a through lot, so it actually has two front yards. So we are putting a pool in and a shed or garage addition in what's technically a front yard. So as I indicated before, it's currently developed with a two-story single-family dwelling. This is on the eastern side of Orange Road, between Llewellyn Road to the south and Gates Avenue to the north. The project proposes the removal of a small shed and the placement of an in-ground swimming pool, and the construction of an addition to the existing garage shed. That addition will include a new roof line, a covered patio on the eastern side of the garage. It requires 3 variances. 2 of those variants have to do with construction of an accessory structure in the front yard. The other variance has to do with construction of a swimming pool in the front yard. And the other is a bulk variance related to the side yard setback requirement of 6 feet. They're proposing a 5.2 foot setback. I'm sorry, the existing is a side yard setback of 5.2 feet. And in the application, they depict an outdoor kitchen area with a 0-foot side yard setback. The property is located in the South End Potential Historic Resource Area, identified in the preservation element of the master plan. The historic preservation element describes this area as including a variety of properties associated with Montclair's late 19th century immigrants, as well as township mill workers. Residents included New Englanders, African Americans, and immigrants from Italy, Ireland, Germany, and Scandinavia. Mr. O'Brien, I'm going to swear you in, and if you could just state your name and affiliation to the applicant for the record.
Yes, my name's Mike O'Brien, and I am a designer here at the Pool Boss, and I'm owner's rep to Frank Greene.
Is there anyone else on behalf of the applicant with you?
No, the architect will not be joining us this evening.
Okay. Mr. O'Brien, if you could raise your right hand, do you swear and affirm that the testimony that you're going to give this commission will be truthful and accurate to the best of your ability?
I confirm.
Thank you. Go right ahead to your meeting.
Okay, so what we're planning to do is, obviously, as Jason alluded to, is install in-ground swimming pool in the front yard of Elm Street, along with renovating the existing shed/garage structure that is currently on site, and as well as constructing some other elements on the property. But again, the kitchen, placing that right on the side yard property line in conjunction with the covered structure or the renovated garage/shed. Now, we plan on, so for this, I want to talk really about the shed structure and the garage since we have it up there. We're planning on matching materials that relate back to the existing single-family home that was recently renovated and rebuilt in the town. They currently have vertical planks on the home, and the homeowner would like to match the siding on the new structure, as the existing structure is now covered in stucco. And the homeowner would like to match the aesthetic of the property of the current home, which will not be changing back to stucco or back to stucco since it's fairly new. There's a few, the garage, I believe this was an old garage for, in the past was used for, smaller vehicles. The garage door now is practically unusable due to the size and the height of the opening to fit a vehicle in. So one of the proposals was to close off the garage door and install a casement window. Just because there's no reason to have the garage door acting as a functioning opening and closing garage door. They would also like to close off the access to Elm Street from that from the road. In respects to the swimming pool, we had placed it in accordance to all these required side yard setbacks, and we plan on installing evergreen hedgerows along the northeastern and southeastern portion of the property. So out this Elm Street side and the neighbor to the right of the property, completely screening off the neighbor and then the proposed or the existing tongue and groove fence that is there already. The pool is a 20 by 34 coping to coping, and it's just shown to the effect that it fits within the required side yard setback and then the accessory stretch setback for the existing garage and shed. And as you can see, as on the left, the existing the proposed outdoor kitchen, we wanted to place it in proximity to the renovated pool house or the renovated garage to a pool house. And so that's why we had located it on the property line, as there's an existing privacy fence along that side yard. That is basically Oh, one other thing. There's an existing tree house that was not permitted to be built back there by the previous homeowner. Basically in the lower right-hand quarter towards Elm Street, obviously outside of the driveway towards the backyard. We are planning on removing that to formally be able to fit the pool in that space. So that will be removed. Other than that, that is all we're trying to do here.
And this is Frank Greene. Just to add there, if you're curious to look at what the structure looks like currently from the street, I believe in the planning memo.
Mr.
That's
Greene,
part
Mr.
of the.
Just for the record, could you just state your name and address, and I'll swear you in?
Oh, sure. Sorry about that.
Yep, no problem.
Yes, of course. My name is Frank Greene. I live at 229 Orange Road in Montclair, New Jersey.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony that you're going to give this commission is truthful and accurate?
I do.
Thank you. Go right ahead.
Thank you very much. So if you were curious to know what the property currently looks like from the Elm Street point of view and what is visible of the current structure, I believe there's a document in my application, the planning memo. And figure 3 has a view from the street where you can see sort of what my home looks like from the outside and what is visible to the street of the existing structure. And as Mike had mentioned, the main reason why we're renovating this particular piece is that the structure has been unusable for us for vehicle storage. It doesn't fit most modern family vehicles. So we're looking to make it something that our family can use and invest in our home. And I guess one last thing to point out, the existing footprint is not changing beyond just the sort of like overhang of that roof line, moving towards the house.
So, Mr. O'Brien or Mr. Greene, did you have an opportunity to review the report that Mr. Connolly prepared?
Yes, we did.
Would you like to speak to that?
Yes, I would like to. So addressing comment number 1, I know that we make no reference to proposed materials. However, the homeowner currently has a bunch of slate walkways, bluestone walkways. However, due to the retention of heat and his young children, he would intend to use a high-end paver that has been used on neighboring properties by our pool company and by landscape contractors that we bring in. As for the home, or as for the renovated garage structure, he would like to match the existing home's building materials to that structure, so that aesthetically on the property there's a cohesion and there's a matching architectural finish to them. And that's really it for comment number 1. Comment number 2, recommend preserving the garage door opening by installing a new recessed wall in lieu of those existing garage doors. My only concern with installing a recessed wall behind the garage door, and I kind of understand the rationale behind possibly why you would want that recessed wall. The only issue is that the mechanicals of the garage door and how it slides up and through the ceiling, covering that and installing a drop ceiling to enclose those mechanicals would be rather difficult, because the height of the garage door opening is only 8'4", and therefore the drop ceiling may end up becoming so low that that area within may be unusable underneath the mechanicals. We have thought of other ways to satisfy comment number 2 by potentially offering to replace the garage door with like a barn style or something that is more context fitting to the community. That instead of just a hard garage door, you'd be willing to offer that as an alternative. Frank, do you agree with that comment?
Correct. Yes.
Yeah, okay. And number 3 goes back to comment number 1. I understand that the exterior stucco finish shall be retained. However, the homeowner feels, and so do I, feel that maintaining the architectural consistency through the property and the aesthetic, it would be best served if we converted it to match the siding of the existing home, so that it's all consistent. But other than that, those are our answers to the comments provided by Conway and Hickey.
Thank you. I'll open up to questions from the commissioners. Ms. Kane Levy.
So I have a question for Mr. Connolly. This existing garage is a little stucco garage, and the house appears from these photos as a 20th century or a modern house.
Yeah, that's correct. I don't think we should be paying attention to the house whatsoever. It's not the original house. The last remaining structure on this property is the garage. And we should do our best.
In front of the garage is the wall in front of the garage, historic as well, the stone wall.
Yep.
So from this drawing here, do I understand correctly? I mean, there's a little garage and they're demolishing it and building a
no. Oh, sorry. The drawings are at different scales. So we're looking at the same building. One's drawn at, yeah, it was hard to figure out exactly what was going on here. But it is the exact same building, exact same size, minus the overhang where you see in the upper right-hand corner, the proposed front elevation. You see the columns to the right there? That's the only section that's being extended.
And could I interject? In the planning memo, it referenced the demolition of a shed. That was a tree house.
That was the tree house, yes, okay. Jason, that's correct.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So is there any reason why we just can't keep the garage that looking like it does and extending it as necessary towards the house?
So can I, I'll answer that with a question. When the home was being permitted to be rebuilt, did it come in front of the historical committee?
I think that's a moot point.
So I can jump in here. This is Frank Greene. So the reason why we're looking to extend it is the current facade of the garage itself has been painted over a couple of times. The stucco is in pretty bad disrepair, and it's causing several rodents to make their way in. It's not really a sustainable material. So what we're hoping to do is make this a more uniform building with the property and move away from stucco, given the trouble that we've had with it so far as a structure. Okay, and if you noted, oh, I'm sorry, what was that?
No, you can continue, please.
Oh, sure. So if you look at the view from the street, there's only that one part of the facade that faces the street that's visible to the exterior. So what we're hoping to do is just have something that's uniform with the property.
May I ask a question?
Mm-hmm.
The photographs I find confusing. The white structure on the first page, what is that? And what is
that's an existing treehouse that was placed by the previous homeowner.
Oh, this is a treehouse that's on the
it's
ground?
A playhouse.
Yeah. Oh, it's a playhouse. Sorry, treehouse playhouse. Yes. Sorry.
Oh, so that is different from the blue. And what is this building that appears to be blue?
That's the structure.
That's the I'm sorry, that's what?
That is this garage structure that we're talking about right now.
And is this stucco on this facade? Okay, yes. That appears to be blue in this photograph.
Correct.
It's been painted,
okay.
Yeah.
It's been painted over.
Oh, but from the street, from Elm Street, it's a beigey color, isn't it? Is it a different color from the street?
It's the same color.
Oh, okay. It appeared when I went by that it wasn't.
That might be the door.
Okay.
The garage door.
So you testified that you were closing off access to Elm Street. Does that mean you're eliminating the driveway?
No, so what we have currently is a large parking lot private to our home that can fit about 3 cars. We're going to keep that parking lot. That's where we park our car today because we can't fit it through the door of the garage. What we were looking to do is just close that side of the building, essentially close the wall between the building and that parking structure.
Okay.
So it go from a functioning garage door to a solid wall.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Of course.
Welcome.
And one other question, you're proposing a vertical siding, but I'm looking at the house and it has horizontal clapboards.
Right, sorry. We're actually proposing, it should be changed in the drawing. It should be horizontal clapboards that match the home.
I thought on the rear of the house, it does have vertical siding in some location.
It is primarily horizontal.
It does
I don't think there are corner pieces to my home that go straight vertical. Those are like the white corner pieces that go up.
Okay. Are we doing questions right now, Jason? Is that what we're doing? Okay.
Yeah.
We're going around and doing questions, or can I jump in? I have one question for Janice. Maybe I'm wrong. I thought someplace, and this doesn't apply, is not our purview. I thought you could not park your car in a front yard, or you had to be able to show that you could park at least one car beyond the front yard line of a piece of property. Janice, you're muted at the moment.
Yeah, John, you're correct, but this is probably a pre-existing condition because it's a through lot and the garage is set back from the front, from that front property line on, what is it, Prescott? On Elm Street, I mean.
On Elm Street.
I understand that, but they're getting rid of the garage, even the concept of the garage. I understand they can't park a car in there. Whatever. That's not our purview again, but.
But again, the front yard parking is an existing condition, whether or not you have an operable door or not on that garage.
But I don't want to get into it, but I've been planning before where we have parking or a roundabout in the front yard that's not allowed unless we could show that you could park a car beyond the front yard line.
But what's different here is it's a through lot because it's got 2 front yards.
So there's accommodation in the zoning for 2 front yards?
No, it's an existing condition. I think if they're going to ask for a variance or front yard parking, then they would have to ask for it. But I think in here it's existing.
Okay, I'll go on. What would be the front yard setback here? Forget if you had a house here. What would be the front yard setback on this piece of property off of Elm Street? What would be the required front yard setback?
I don't know in feet, but if you look at the existing structure right now, it is in line with the neighbor's home on Elm Street.
And you're not coming any farther forward than that structure. Everything's being built behind that. Is that correct?
Yes,
correct, sir. Yeah.
John. Okay. There's an existing wood fence that separates the driveway and the rest of the property. We are not planning on moving that fence.
Okay. I have a couple questions about what I see here. Is in these elevations that are drawn, there's a proposed left side elevation. Is the left side the side that's facing the street?
Yeah, that side is facing Elm Street. The left-hand side is facing Elm.
Okay. When I look at the floor plan, I see 2 windows shown facing the street. So my question would be, what are we doing facing the street?
So I actually noticed that discrepancy yesterday as I was reviewing the drawings. I can't speak for the architect, but Frank, if you want
Sure.
to mention something.
Yeah, I can jump in there. We had him change that to just the one window, so it's a possibility that he included a different version of that. As Michael mentioned earlier, we are amenable to whatever the aesthetic would be to be most conducive to the neighborhood itself, whether that's 1 or 2 windows or a decorative barn door if necessary.
I have so the existing door, I see an existing left side elevation drawn, but it doesn't match the photograph in terms of what it really looks like. It looks like this is a barn door that actually has 2 doors that swing open. Is that what I'm reading there? And then single light windows at the very top?
In the proposed drawing, or what it is actually like today?
No, on the elevations in the lower left-hand corner is a drawing that says existing left-hand side elevation. That does not match the photograph I'm looking at. Okay, so not that it matters. Okay, there is I can see from the photograph what the door really looks like. It looks like is it a double swinging door, or is it a door that?
No,
no, it's not. It just
it's
made
just
to
the
look that way.
decoration.
It's just made to look that way.
Precisely.
Okay, and the reason that door cannot stay there is why?
For a couple of reasons. The main reason being, if we wanted to enclose the structure to be draft resistant, we would like to have that be closed off. So it's something that we could, again, keep rodents out and keep the temperature controlled. 2, if we keep the existing door, since that is one of those doors that kind of rolls upward, inside the structure itself, there's a mechanical box that hangs down from the ceiling and comes down to about like 8 or so feet off the ground. So if we were to leave that door, we would have to have all of that mechanics either boxed in and dropping the ceiling to cover it.
Well, the mechanics is the lift of the door. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Correct.
And the side rails. That has, you could take the door off of all that stuff. That could all go away. I'm just asking why the actual door cannot remain in place. And you're saying it's because it's rotten or something and rodents are getting through there, or
there is a gap at the bottom. So we've had a rodent issue of those coming in. So if we wanted to make this a usable space that was protected, we would want to seal that off or replace it with something that that was more functioning and secure.
So John, just to be clear, I think the door should be removed and a wall built in its place with windows, because this is a really important structure for this property. I just want to, in the future, for somebody to be able to tell that this was a garage. So I think the garage frame should remain. The door and all the mechanics should be removed. And you can build a wall there, recess from the front face of the garage wall, and put whatever windows you want in there. Insulate the wall, do whatever you want, but.
Well, that goes to comments. I have comments about that. That's not really a question I have at the moment. I'm just trying to understand the drawings, why 1 window versus 2 windows, and make sure I understand what's being drawn. The trim that goes around doors and windows that I see on the proposed plans it doesn't look like it has anything to do with the photographs I see of the existing house. Would you propose to trim out all the door and window openings to match the trim around the existing house?
Correct.
Okay. It's just, okay. I don't have any other questions.
Kathleen, do you have any questions?
Yes. Is there currently a bathroom in this structure, or are you proposing a bathroom?
We're proposing a half bath, and there's not one currently.
Okay. And the lighting, it looks as though you've got only two lights on the exterior.
So we have two down on the exterior. What I would like to, in addition to this, is have a light facing Elm Street like we do today for security reasons, and to have some sort of like motion sensor like we have today. So essentially where it says proposed left side elevation, some sort of light there.
And then what about under the roof that faces the house, that you've got a bar? There'll be no lighting there.
There will be recessed lighting in the overhang of that roof line. So when you look up underneath the overhang, there would be like possibly two recessed lights.
Okay. Okay, thank you. That's all my questions about lighting.
Mr. Greenbaum?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I just want to confirm. I first heard a representation that there was going to be vertical clapboard, and then I heard a representation that no, the house is horizontal. That's a mistake. It's horizontal clapboard. But I'm looking at the elevations as they're presented here in the printed exhibit, and they're vertical. So which one is it?
Right. So we had gone back and forth. What we had originally designed is that we would have liked to have vertical clapboard, but in hearing that we may need to be more consistent with the home, we thought that the horizontal better matched the home itself. So we're happy to go with either direction as amenable to the board, but our current understanding is that horizontal may be a better fit for the home.
Okay, I just want to be sure because it's creating a little cognitive dissonance in my brain here.
Sure, totally understood. Thank you.
The other thing is, I think you also have pilasters. You made reference to the vertical trim, the contrasting trim on the corners of the house and being vertical. Are you incorporating that same kind of trim and a contrasting trim on this structure?
Either contrasting or in alignment with the same color. We haven't picked out the color yet for the trim, but I'm assuming if we're going to be matching it with the home, that having some sort of contrast with the trim would be more suitable.
But is the trim like the same stylistically as the home in terms of, I believe they look like recessed pilasters?
Oh, correct. Yeah, so it would just be like a flat finish trim. So if you look right now, they're just sort of like I forget what the material is, but a flat, even-edged white trim.
Is the clapboard that you proposed, now that you've confirmed that it's horizontal, will that be a wood clapboard? Will that be cedar, or will that be some, are you proposing something synthetic?
I think our home currently is a synthetic clapboard where the color is sort of baked into it.
Okay, I don't.
I think that's sort of where we would go. Mike, I'm not sure if you have any recommendations there. We haven't really picked out the exact material.
Yeah, we have not gotten that far with the architect, picking out the exact material, but you know, Frank, I and the architect are open to any suggestions.
Okay, well, you know, I think it's important, and that's something we'll discuss, but I think it's important in our conditions that the material clearly be stated. It's not vinyl, and it's not, we'll be very specific, probably aluminum and vinyl are materials that would probably be, I would imagine my colleagues and I would agree that that would be something we would discourage in our conditions. Mm-hmm. You know, I guess that, and the shingles on the roof, what is the material that you're specifying? Is that the same material, like a tar shingle?
Correct. So we have extra shingle from the actual home itself. So my thought there was we would use that extra shingle to color match and make sure that we get something that looks the same.
Okay. And the again, the elevation facing Elm Street as it's proposed now, if I'm not mistaken, I want to be sure I'm clear on this, is the second from the bottom left.
Yeah.
It's a horizontal window, and that would actually be seen from the street. Is that correct?
Correct. So that would be the only side visible from the street.
Right, but would there be any screening? Will that be screened in any way from the street? I noticed that in the plan you have your parking area.
Mhm.
And if one was to stand on Elm Street, and I gather that would be looking west, somewhat west. If they're looking, will they see that window? Will that be visible, or is that in any way screened?
Currently, the way that it's designed, it's visible, but we're also happy to put additional planting behind that if that would be amenable as well.
David, there's a figure 3 in the handout that shows a photograph from Elm Street. That gives you a pretty good idea what you see.
Let me take a quick peek. Mine aren't numbered, I don't think, but
It's in the planning memo.
I'm in the memo. But why don't you go on to the next person, and meanwhile I'll dig around and try to find it. I have the plan, and then I have a series of photographs, printed photographs. Is that what you're referring to, John?
No,
The actual planning memo.
Graham's memo.
Graham's memo.
Okay.
Third page.
I have papers all around me, so let me dig through. So
Okay.
we should move on to the next person, and then if I have any further questions, with your permission, I might have a question to add. Okay?
Are there any other questions? I think we've gone through every.
Can I ask him one more? Are there gutters and leaders proposed for this building? I don't see them on the plans.
Good question. Yes, they're currently, I do not believe they currently have gutter. No, we do not currently have gutters on the building, and that's something that I definitely want added to the building.
There's Kathleen, they're showing a gutter, but they're not showing where the leaders are. So it's hard to tell whether the leaders are we're going to see the leaders from the street, or they're going to come down someplace else.
All right, thank you.
Of course, Kathleen. The idea with the gutter leads down would be that the leads would be closer to the home, away from Elm Street. But also open to suggestions there as well.
I'm sorry, say that again. The idea with the leaders was that they would be on the corners that are faced.
Essentially, they would come down the way that we were thinking about them now, where it says proposed right side elevation and proposed rear elevation, that we would try to lead them that way and come down along those sides. Ideally in the proposed rear elevation, since that's not visible and it's somewhat hidden by the alleyway between the homes.
I have one more question. Where is the pool equipment located?
Mm.
The pool equipment is located near the home itself. So if you flip, yes, wonderful. So if you look where the story frame dwelling is, right where your cursor is right now, that large rectangle.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Of course.
You're welcome.
Mr. Greenbaum, are you ready?
Oh, I'm sorry. Can I be heard? I'm sorry.
Yes,
Am I heard?
yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So everything I'm looking at here in this exhibit on page 3, the stone wall is being retained. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. The elevation, the location of that garage door, that location is exactly the same location as where the new structure will be. It's effectively
the structure.
The actual the depth to that face is the same from the street?
Correct.
Yeah, we're not changing the footprint of the building other than the little overhang bump out towards facing towards the home, the existing home.
Okay, just wanted to make sure. And then, and are there any plantings in this plan? I'm assuming, are these circular things plantings in front of the fence? Like, I'm confused.
Correct. Yep.
Right now, there are no plantings in front of the fence that I can see. In
So
the existing, as in its present state, there's no plantings screening the fence from your parking area. Is you're proposing putting plantings there in this development, in this plan?
We're proposing putting the planting on the interior side of the fence. So once you walk through the fence gate along that part of the fence, there is actually, it's blocked by my car in the photo that you're seeing, but there is actually low planting behind my car.
Okay.
All the way up from the where the gate starts, which is right about at the edge of where my car is in the image. Planting from that part straight down, and then as you can see, all along the side that borders my neighbor.
And let me ask you a question: the pavement, the impervious surface of your parking area, abuts the stone wall. It's completely flush. Stone wall touches the pavement?
Correct. So it's asphalt up until the stone wall.
Would you consider doing any kind of plantings behind the stone wall that would rise above the stone wall and serve a little more as a screen to your parking area?
Certainly could do that. What we actually thought about doing, if you look in that photo that you're referencing, figure 3, we were thinking something similar but in front of the stone wall where there's currently just low flowers.
Right.
We would be amenable to moving that behind the stone wall if that was better. Right now, there's just a lot of open dirt there for an excellent opportunity to plant without breaking the asphalt.
I think because of the unusual, and this is to address, I think, John's point earlier about the parking in the front in the front property, because it's a pre-existing condition, and I'm not familiar with the law to the level that Janice is, but perhaps one of the ways to enhance the project and make it more palatable because of the unusual nature is to provide more of a screen. Like the stone wall is a very nice feature, and it's very attractive. As I can see it, it's not a clear print, but if there was perhaps some kind of like skip laurel or something that's maybe like 5 feet high, the parking area, that would be nice. Making that more a very like soften that whole area so it doesn't, it's not as intrusive. Because that is the exception, I imagine. I don't think other people have parking in the front of their house like that. Is that correct? Your house, but in this case, it's front yard on both sides. So my question is, and I'm sure, are you the only one? Does anyone else have that situation on your street?
There are 2 of us. So if you look at what Janice has up on the screen, my lot, and then if you look to the left of it, there's sort of that quadrangle there. That's the corner that wraps around Orange and Elm. That is one property as well. And they have the same parking structure on Elm Street as well. But it's only our 2 lots. After that, Elm Street and Orange is split down the middle.
So, but what you're saying though is, do they have a front yard parking in that location? On the Elm Street side? Can you see, do they?
David, look at figure 3 again.
Yeah.
And look at the property zoning. Look at figure 4 and you see their property, and the property right next below it is also a through lot.
No, I understand that, but do they have, the question is, does that other through lot also have parking on that side?
Yes, they do.
They do.
They do, and they have actually an illegally placed 6-foot-high PVC fence on the front yard property line.
Okay. All right. Well, the only thing I was going to say is this, since this isn't, you have a bit of a hardship because of the double front yards, that, you know, one way to address it, and I think is actually an enhancement, and again, is to put plantings on the inside of the stone wall and possibly on the outside of the wooden fence, so that when you enter into the parking area, it's really kind of like like a welcoming park-like environment, rather than right now you have a stone wall, which doesn't do anything to visually break the line of sight to the street. So all I'm saying is that that could actually become like its own interior room, if you will. That's
Yeah.
And I'm just saying that would be, because John made the point that, and I agree that, parking in front of a house is very much the exception. And in your case, it's a hardship because of your lot. But one way to mitigate, and actually maybe mitigate it from the street, the visual impact, and also to enhance your property is to enclose that, and make that kind of into a little kind of screened interior space. That's all.
The only
Yeah, I really like that idea.
the only concern that I have with installing is something like skip laurel is that along that stone wall is visibility as Frank and his family pulls out of that parking lot and the people traversing the sidewalk, the visibility may be impacted. So maybe proposing something like a boxwood that can stay at maybe just slightly over the top of that wall could be something that we could propose in lieu.
Yeah, or like, I mean, not that I'm a big fan of it, what is it, Aphrodite, or not Aphrodite, Arborvitae. Yeah, this thing.
Yeah, I would want to do something a little bit lower than that, just to not to create a visible barrier for safety purposes.
All right, well, I just think it would be very handsome, if you really want to push it, you could do like a stone gravel driveway. Kind of reminds me of like an East Hampton type home.
Yeah.
It's kind of the feeling of your backyard anyway, what you're trying to do. And again, this is kind of outside what I should be commenting on at the moment. I'm just putting it out there as a means to help your application and to make it a more successful experience for you as residents as well.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And feel free to charge me for the design advice. This was wonderful. Thank you.
All right, well,
I love that. Thank you.
I'm finished. If Steve or whoever needs to speak, I pass along the mic.
We're going to open to public comment now.
Before we do, Mr. Connolly, did you have any questions or additional comments?
No additional questions or comments.
Okay. Then we'll go ahead and open it up to the public for questions and comments. Ms. Talley, if you could unmute the other participants.
Okay, everybody is unmuted. This is your opportunity for questions and comments.
Okay, hearing none, we'll close the public comment section. And we'll move on to comments and deliberations from the commissioners. Mr. Greenbaum, if you want to start. Any comments, Mr. Greenbaum?
Oh, forget.
Yeah, you're muted.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yep.
I just want, Janice, can you just confirm exactly, this is basically a variance there's two variances, right? One being.
Three.
There's three.
Can you just review quickly the three variances that are being sought?
Yes, the first variance is to construct the pool in a front yard. It's an accessory. Let's see. To conduct an addition to an existing accessory structure within a front yard, because you can't have accessory structures in a front yard. Number two is to have the pool in the front yard. And number three is there's a side yard setback variance because the existing structure has a side yard setback of only 5.2 feet and 6 feet is required.
Okay, so those are the three specific issues, and we're here to advise the Board of Adjustment as to our thoughts as it relates to the historic district and the suitability. Is that correct? We're just an advisor to the Board of Adjustment in this case.
That's correct.
Okay. So, all right, so I will speak now then. Look, this is an unusual application. It's an unusual lot. I think that the suggestions I was just making actually work very much to help mitigate the potential, what's the word I'm looking for?
Obstruction?
Well, the defect, can't think of the word I'm looking for, begins with a D, but anyway.
Efficiency?
not deficiency, but anyway, it's basically the well, let's say the deficits, let's just say that, it can be outweighed by addressing this facade, this Elm Street approach and making it very accommodating and pleasing, and that would mitigate whatever effects, negative effects, detrimental effects that the variances would, impact. So I believe if you take it from the point of view that this back is not a backyard, but in fact is kind of like the front of one's home, and like in East Hampton or someplace where there's like a gravel, I'm not saying you have to go gravel, but it would be nice. Gravel driveway with some places they would have a fountain in the middle, but they'd create this whole sense of a presence and place, a sense of place here. So if you presented it to me as a room, and you use shrubbery as a means to enclosing that room and framing that room, okay, I think, in combination with the stone wall, which already is there, which is an attractive feature, I think that ultimately you would get many benefits, and the detriments, any detriments would be outweighed from the point of view of granting the variances that you seek. So that would be my position at this point in time, but I defer to my colleagues.
Thank you.
Ms. Kane Levy, any comments?
You're muted.
I'd rather hear what others have to say before I speak.
Chair Bennett?
Yes, well, once again, we're presented with a set of plans that really don't tell us much. I think that we're guessing at a lot, and we're giving a lot of design input. And I think it's incumbent upon us as the HPC to really have a complete set of plans that we know what we're looking at in terms of material, in terms of lighting, even in terms of gutters, downspouts, and siding. So I am disappointed in these plans and they're very difficult to follow with the different sizes all over the place. So that's a comment there. And then the other thing that what Janice just spoke to, the 3 variances, and the first variance is relief to construct an addition to the existing accessory structure. Now that you've gone through it, I can understand where you're making this larger, this structure, and the addition will face the house. But I thought that I heard that it was going to be on the original footprint. So I don't know if you testified to that, or am I mistaken? Did I hear incorrectly? Yes.
The foundation footprint is to remain.
Wait a minute, who's speaking?
Michael Bryan is speaking.
Okay.
It's the foundational footprint is to remain. The only kind of extension would be in the roof line.
And that's considered, extending the roof like that is considered an addition.
Additionally, Kathleen, I think it was testified to that they're also changing the materials of the facade.
Yes.
No, I eliminating the garage door, so there's definitely visual impacts from the streetscape.
Yes. Okay, that's if we can put together the recommendations to the zoning board that speak to the recommendations that the rest of my colleagues have made, that makes sense. I think it's would be an improvement to the neighborhood. I am concerned about the exterior finish. I know that this is the only existing original building on the property, and our design consultant, our historic preservation consultant rather, has recommended that the stucco finish be retained. So, but if it's a case that it's in such disrepair, that it can't be fixed, that's another issue. But I think that that's something that maybe we should have had documentation that we could actually see that.
Comment
Yes.
to that effect. The neighbor that we're speaking about to the left of Frank on Elm Street, who has the same condition of the front double front yard and the through lot, their garage structure matches their home siding, and it's not the sidings match. So I'm just wanted to point that out there. The neighbor to the left does have has a similar condition, and their garage and their home match in facade and color and design.
Is it an historic structure? Do you know when it dates from? Or is it a new structure like such as the building that's on this lot?
It appears that they're possibly that the new garage structure was rebuilt. But if I'm speaking with your zoning officer, Richard Churin, he had told me that those lots had always existed, and those kind of double front yards and garage doors garages had been there. I don't know if the neighbor to the left of Frank had renovated the home at the same time as the garage, but I just wanted to point out that the home and the garage do match on the neighbor's side.
Yes, but we're speaking about an historic structure, finish of a historic structure, which that may not apply to the people next door. I think from a design point, if I understand what you're saying, is that you want the house and the pool structure, the pool house, to be the same exterior treatment, correct?
Correct. And what if the house next to its garage was historic and it was remodeled?
I don't think we should be talking about anybody's property except for this property. Listen, this is the Historic Preservation Commission. We're supposed to be doing our best to preserve this structure, and adding siding over top of the stucco or changing the siding completely alters the look of this building. It completely goes against preservation philosophy.
Okay, fair enough.
Those are my comments. Thank you.
Mr. Reinitz, any comments?
A few comments. Come back on video here. Oops, sorry. I think the variances are all, in a way, they're based on hardship, and you really can't from the street even see the swimming pool if I look at this photograph, and you really can't see the overhang extension in the rear, and the other is a technical sort of the side yard. It's an existing non-conforming situation. Setting to a side that I still don't understand how you can take this ability to change this from a garage into something else and not show that you can park a car. I'll put that to the side. I think this looks like a great project.
Thank you.
My comments in terms of what I see and what you're changing is really your left elevation, what you call left elevation facing Elm Street. I think if you do anything there, I would try to replicate sort of the image of that garage door. And I think Tom alluded to that to some degree. As far as, and I think if you wanted to be true and match the house, you would use the same kind of trim around windows and doors. The whole thing of stucco versus clapboard. I don't know. I don't find this. I understand the historic preservation of this, but it's a little old garage at the end of the day. The stone wall is nice. I think David had some nice comments. I think you could have a taller planting to a point where you block the view of that car in this photograph. And then if you drop down, if you're worried about safety, I think any kind of planting there, will just soften the idea that you've got this sort of parking lot on Elm Street. Those are my comments.
Thank you.
Commissioner Rooney? You're on mute, Steve.
Yeah, I know. There we go. It's a very nice solution to this yard, and I don't think that the objections, things you're running against are very serious. The only thing that I would do is maybe make the garage door itself a shadow box with solid wall behind it. Maybe you could put windows in it. I don't see it in front of it, but it would be nice to have something there instead of a blank wall. And just the historic aspect, as minor as it is, it would look nice back there. Landscaping, that would work. Other than that, I think it's pretty good. It'd be fun to be there.
Thank you. Come on over.
Yeah, right.
I echo a lot of the concerns and views of my fellow commissioners. I want to restate and emphasize the fact that the purview of this commission is, what's visible from the streetscape. And, really the pool is not going to be visible.
It's not visible.
The removal of the illegally placed playhouse is a benefit in terms of the streetscape. And the only thing that we're really concerned with, because the addition to the garage is towards the interior of the lot, is given the size of the fence, probably not visible. It's really just the treatment of the garage door, its replacement, and the proposed finishing. And with respect to that garage door, I think it would be important to preserve some remnant of its use as a garage, some sort of recess or shadow box that was mentioned. It would also be nice to see some sort of garage door treatment, but I don't think it's necessary. I would leave it up to your discretion, provided there was some sort of recess if it was a solid wall. And in terms of the material, I think it could go either way. I think it'd be nice to preserve the stucco because it's almost like two separate properties, the way that fence line is and then with the wall. So, in terms of a replacement in kind, I think it's feasible. If it's feasible, I think that should be done. That's all I have in terms of comments. Caroline?
Yes, okay. I think I would like to see the garage door preserved, and or a matching one put there, and you could put a solid wall in the interior. But I think it's important for the fact that it's a garage building. And I would prefer to see the stucco. I'm wondering if you could just maintain the stucco on that outer wall, and if you wanted clapper the rest of the building, if there was a way to have it intersect without looking strange with some kind of a corner board that might do the trick. Everything else on the other side, everything else that you can't see on the other side of the fence, I'm fine with. It's just that public facing garage wall.
May I ask you a question of the applicant?
Yes, of course.
Okay, so I'm looking at the plan of the proposed first floor, of the first floor structure, of what effectively is your pool house. May I ask you, the interior programming of the space, the space in particular on the, directly on the rear side of what would have been the garage door, what is the interior programming of that space? Is that just going to be an interior room, like a living room kind of vibe, or?
Yeah, we're thinking about putting just seating furniture there, coffee table, some sort of like indoor-outdoor type furniture so that if it gets wet, it doesn't get ruined from the pool itself, but it would just be like a lounge space.
That's interior space, isn't it? Is that a heated, is the pool house a heated space?
No, we're not proposing putting any heating into it. We're proposing putting in, I'm thinking more along the lines of like ceiling fans to keep it cool, but this would only be a seasonal structure.
Okay.
We have
So
no
what I'm-
plans to use it in the winter.
So going back to just a variety of threads that have been discussed tonight, that elevation facing where you have a horizontal window facing towards the driveway, that's the one spot that my colleagues mentioned trying to perhaps recreate the garage door. I don't think everything I described before to you in terms of that sense of like making it like a welcoming courtyard, like almost like an English country house.
Yeah,
That facade right now doesn't address that. That doesn't, it's not welcoming. It becomes a back
sure.
of house elevation, which shown here. And so the garage door makes logical sense, but you could also do a garage door that functions, that opens up to make it like an indoor-outdoor space where that door opens up and you now have kind of like the courtyard opens up if you were entertaining, let's say, and you could have a glass garage door. You could, and that instead of, most people think of a garage door as where a car is behind it, but there's not, there's like, even on Glenridge Avenue, the restaurant next to Finn, I can't think of the name right now.
The
they
Crosby.
use what is it?
The Crosby.
Crosby. So like how they use garage doors as a entry, and it opens up the space to make it like an indoor-outdoor space. And then in the winter they can keep it closed. So perhaps in the same spirit, first of all, I think you need to create a focal point where the old door, right, as it is now,
Sure.
in the elevation, makes sense. And I concur with with Caroline on that and everybody else who's mentioned it. Because what you have right now really almost looks like back of house, which defeats the whole idea that this is a front yard. So I think it should read in some kind of welcoming way. And again, it's outside of my purview, but I might suggest you consider that as an open penetration that could become like an indoor-outdoor. It turns into almost like a pergola, not just a interior structure. So that would be my suggestion, and I would suggest, with all due respect, I would like to see this come back to either a subcommittee for us to see the final materials and the final plan to make sure that all of our conditions were addressed and that the materials comport to the level that we are envisioning. Because right now, we're relying upon, you are saying, yes, we'll do that, absolutely, and we could condition it certain things, but I think it's important for us to visually see it. And again, honestly, it's not so much to give you a hard time, but I think we can actually just ensure that, again, the potential detriments are addressed. And perhaps you could look at it as an extra design oversight to your advantage as well, if you want to look at it that way. But I do think, because of the fact that the application has deviated from what we actually were presented, I feel like we should look at it in its final form with the material samples presented, if my colleagues can agree or disagree on that.
I would think that somehow, this goes back to what's being presented to us or what's being brought to us as the Historic Preservation Commission. I think we should at least be presented with drawings that match actually what's going to be built. I think that's or being proposed. So that seems to be like a minimum. So I would agree with that.
We usually request on applications that they come back to us with materials in terms of siding, also with lighting. So that's not unusual, but I would also like to reiterate my concern that the drawings this drawing in particular, but have not been detailed enough that we could have a discussion, an educated discussion.
So would you suggest that they come back to us with the full commission with revised plans? Or would you suggest that a subcommittee could address that?
I think a subcommittee can address it. We that's how we worked in the past. I don't know what everybody else thinks.
Well, this doesn't really have conditions. I mean, it's a referral.
Right.
And
recommendations.
It's only whether or not the owner wants to deal with it.
Well, I don't understand that. Doesn't he
hasn't hired you as a designer, and neither has the other board. They just wanted our thoughts on it, and the only thing they're interested in is the setbacks.
And we can have a conversation outside of this application about, what's required in the checklist for these different types of applications. And
yeah, that's something different.
Yeah,
that's something totally different.
So basically, is our only role here to say yay or nay at this point, or
our role here is to provide our recommendations based on what's been provided. If there's not enough information, then we put that in our recommendations.
I think our role, David, I think our role is, as Historic Preservation Commission, is to comment on what we can see from the street, how it fits with the neighborhood. And I agree. The only thing we're really looking at is this front of this, or the left-hand side of the garage.
Right.
And beyond that, I don't think it's our purview. So I think if that's it. That's all I have to say.
Let me ask you, Janice, are we able to provide recommendations, and
Absolutely.
Are we entitled?
Yeah, I think the commission has been very effective in providing recommendations to the Zoning Board of Adjustment. You have to understand that these applications are for bulk variances, and the kind of detail that you need is not submitted with the bulk variance. And usually you recommend that they come back to you for final approval of materials and lighting details. And I think that works very effectively, because that's not the kind of detail that is usually provided along with a bulk variance.
So, I mean, in this case, we're talking about, we have to weigh the pros and cons, the detriment versus the.
No, you don't have to do that.
Yes.
No.
Again, let's try and stay on task with this. And I think John put it perfectly. Our pure view is this small section of the garage that's visible from the street. So let's keep our focus on that and what our recommendations are pertaining to that structure. And, like I said before, regarding the pool, regarding the demolition of the playhouse, those are things that, we could support the variances because they don't impact. And, with respect to the demolition of that playhouse, it actually contributes to the streetscape. So, the only thing we should be putting in our recommendation is a request for additional details, like we did in the last application, and our recommendations on that garage street-facing facade.
Well, actually, I would argue that 3 sides of this garage are visible from the street, from the public right away. Bless you.
So is it fair to say that we can request for a revised or more detailed elevations and materials? And Janice, that would take place before we would review them before it went
No.
back to the Board of Adjustment?
No, I don't think so. I think that, I think that
This
was
is-
something, if it's
Yeah, this
approved
is
by the
what we
zoning
can
board.
do. Sorry, Janice, but this is what we can do. We can provide our recommendations. We can ask that they come back for materials review, like we've done in the past in terms of a subcommittee. But beyond that, we don't have the power to impose conditions and force them to come back and force them to submit additional things. We can make those recommendations that they provide those additional details. But this isn't a C of A application.
Right.
Then it's
Yes,
up to the
excuse me, Mr. Greenbaum, on that note, I think we should move on because we do have one other application, which is a C of A application. Application.
In terms of those recommendations, I propose that we our recommendation to the zoning board include a similar preamble as to the last application with the same recommendations for additional recommendation for additional materials review. And then the only items that we have left to decide on is what is our recommendation regarding the finish and the garage door treatment. There were mixed responses between the commissioners. So those are the two items that I think are outstanding that we should decide on.
My vote would be for some sort of image on that facade that gives you some sense that there was a garage door there.
Right.
I think if they could replicate the paned, I sort of understand the high awning window. They don't want people looking inside there, probably from the street. But you could do that by, again, doing a shadow box or doing something like that. Again, we're not trying to design it, but I think we could say we want to see some residual image of that garage with those high windows, say, and that's it.
So would it be fair to keep it a little bit, simpler and just say the commission recommends a replication of the garage door when, the proposed left side elevation is filled in. Does that work?
Yeah.
Right.
Or a version, maybe not, is replication meaning, not exactly, but some, yes.
Facsimile.
Yeah.
To reflect and to make reference to?
Yeah, there you go. I like that.
Is that clear, Janice?
I got it.
Okay. And then the next item is the facade treatment. Should the stucco be preserved or replicated in kind or replaced in kind, or are we giving our approval to replacement to match the primary structure?
I have a base. Is it the case that what's being proposed is you're going to put clapboard right over the stucco? Or are you going to strip the stucco down to the sheathing and then waterproof and put siding on?
Correct. I mean, I am not a contractor, but we were thinking that we would take the stucco off, improve the quality of the walls themselves because there are holes throughout the walls, and put some insulation to make it more amenable, and then put a new siding on top of that. Since the part facing the pool is not level, we were going to level that out, which would require taking the stucco off.
Okay. So there's nothing that keeps you from putting the stucco back on because you're sort of rebuilding the finish outside, you're insulating inside. You know, you could put waterproofing and some wire mesh and put new stucco on the outside of this thing. I've come around to think that maybe stucco is, you know, more in keeping with what was there. Maybe instead of tying it to the house, it should read as something that faces this street that's different from the house. So I would vote for stucco at the moment.
I agree with you, John.
And I agree as well.
And I do too.
Same.
Okay,
Got that, Janet? So those,
I got it.
those are the two recommendations on the proposed addition to the garage, along with the the preamble and recommendations to return for materials review. Thank you very much, Mr.
It looks like
Green,
a great,
Brian.
it looks like a great
It's gonna be
project.
fun.
Good for you. It's really nice what you're building back here. I think that's going to be great for your
Agreed.
for your family and your friends. That's great.
And the last application is the HPC application 2020-30, Ascend New Jersey LLC. This is 399 Bloomfield Avenue.
Good evening, members of the commission. Allison Cassetta, I'm the attorney for the applicant. It looks from my end like I'm already a panelist. I'm not sure.
I don't know how that happened.
I don't know either.
No, I think
And
what I did.
Go
Yeah,
ahead.
there, now you are. Do you have anybody else with
Okay.
you?
I do. I have with me two representatives of BKA Architects. Those are Andrea Berardi and Keith Betancourt. So I'm going to have them walk the commission through the proposal. Then I also have our professional planner, Keenan Hughes, and a representative of the applicant, Kate Crowther. And you can make them panelists if you'd like. They're here just to answer any questions that might be necessary.
Who was the first person? I didn't catch the name.
Andrea Berardi from BKA Architects. I'm just looking to see if I can turn my video on. I'm not sure how to do that.
So let me just introduce the application and I'll swear the witnesses in. This is a HPC C of A application for alterations to a storefront and installation of new signage. 395 Bloomfield Avenue is identified in the 2002 nomination report as a 20th century commercial structure that was built circa 1900 and is categorized as a harmonizing, albeit altered building. The building is accentuated with decorative brickwork above the storefronts and brackets, which accent the roof and define the storefront bays. This, of course, is in our commercial district. The applicant proposes to existing awning at storefront. David, your papers. The applicant proposes to install a new wood look finish, horizontal boards to the piers, storefront returns, and the sign band area of the storefront. The applicant proposes to install 2 new gooseneck lights. The applicant proposes to install a well-mounted business sign. Non-illuminated dimensional letters of PVC. The applicant proposes to install a new projecting sign at the top right pier of the storefront. It's to be aluminum with PVC lettering. And the witnesses, I have Ms. Crowther, Ms. Berardi, Mr. Hughes, and
Mr. Betancourt, I don't see him.
I don't see him anymore.
Yeah. Andrea, did Keith have to log off?
I'm not sure he logged on to the WebEx. I think he just had called in.
I see.
Yeah, I'm here via phone.
Okay, very good.
Okay, thank you.
So if I could swear you all in, if you could all just swear affirm that your testimony before this commission will be truthful and accurate to the best of your ability, and after doing so, just state your name and your affiliation to the applicant. So do you swear or affirm that your testimony will be truthful and accurate?
This is Kate Crowther from Sun Wellness Holdings. Yes.
Andrea Berardi with BKA, yes.
Keith Betancourt, BKA, yes.
And this is Keenan Hughes of Phillips Price. Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Cassetta, if you want to begin your presentation, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you. So given the late hour, I'd like to have Andrea or Keith just very briefly walk you through the proposal. I see that Ms. Talley has the plan up on the screen. So I just ask Andrea and Keith, just let the commission know which sheet you're referring to so that if it needs to be changed, they can do that.
Sure. So this first sheet just shows our proposed storefront in black and white. If you want to scroll to the next sheet, it shows the vicinity map where the project is being located. The following is the floor plans of the space.
And Andrea, if I could just interrupt for one moment, just so the commission knows, it's our understanding that this interior work, as well as the facade improvements, subject to your certificate of appropriateness, would be handled administratively, meaning we don't need to go to the planning board or the zoning board. We don't believe any variances are necessary.
That's correct. Our purview is only the exterior and what's visible from the streetscape. So to the extent that
thank you. Yes, just wanted to point that out.
Skip through that.
Okay, go ahead, Andrea.
But what is the use? I'm just curious.
It's an existing cannabis dispensary. So these improvements are part of a rebranding. So the use is not changing. And you can see on that floor plan, the interior changes are very minor. And that's why it won't be going to either of the land use boards.
Okay.
Sorry to interrupt you, Andrea.
No, that's fine. So it does look, Sally, I think we had sent over updated exhibits on the 16th. It does not look like these are those exhibits. Our new exhibits show that we're keeping the travertine floor that is in the existing alcove. We will be replacing the existing storefront. I believe this storefront now is an anodized aluminum. We would be replacing that in kind.
I'm looking for your new exhibits. So give me a moment.
Okay.
And when did you send them over?
We had sent them to Ascend prior to the deadline on the, I believe it was the 15th.
Let me ask a question. Maybe this is easier. Janice, do you have the ability to give Andrea screen sharing rights?
No, I don't.
Okay. 'Cause I'm not sure what happened with these plans. So Andrea, could you, or Janice, I apologize, could you scroll down to the sheets that show the elevation changes, just so we can at least look at what's different?
Wait, hold on. It should be pulling up. because the latest plans I have we received October 14th. Is that what you're referring to?
Yes, that is what I'm referring to.
All right. I don't know why. Let me close this down. I'll bring it up the ones. Has the same date. Although it says here for October 9th. Okay. What sheet do you want me to go to?
So these are, these should be dated 10/14.
This is what I have. This was received 10/14. That's what it says on my file here. But obviously, you see the date here. This is the most recent ones that we received. Unless because I didn't take this, unless it was placed someplace else. Let me see if put him.
Janice, can I ask again to just scroll down to the elevation sheet so Andrea can look at it? Because I'm sure she can eyeball it and tell you what's correct or incorrect.
Is this the sheet?
That one.
Yes, so the wood finish is, we're now proposing, it's a Nichiha, still the same product, but it's called ash. So a more gray tones, and then the alcove going into the space, we're proposing a mosaic tile with the Ascend logo inset into it. The storefront is also going to have a charcoal matte film over it.
I apologize to the commission. I'm not sure what happened with the plan mix-up. But maybe
Allison, I just found them. I sent them. This is Kate Crowther, because I was looking for them as having been received from Andrea. I did send them to Sally in your office on 10/14. Is there someone I can send them to in real time at this moment? I mean, not much has changed. I will say that the content of the application is largely the same, except for color and placement.
Can I comment? I think it's pretty clear more or less what's being proposed here, which is this wood finish interior, the sign above, the blade sign above that, and we can see in the lower right-hand corner what's there now. I think that's it, right? That's what you're proposing.
I will say yes, but I'll also ask Andrea to confirm that.
Excuse me, didn't you mention a mosaic?
Yes, so that is a difference in the renderings. The coloring is also different because the color proposed of the wood is a different color than what is being shown on this rendering.
Okay, so you sent us
3 gooseneck lights overhead rather than this rendering does not show any gooseneck lighting.
So did you send us hard copies of that?
If you don't have digital copies, I am assuming that hard copies were not sent either.
Yeah, I don't have hard. I have the file here. I don't have any hard. I don't have anything. They're dated September 28th.
Can I, again, it looks like we don't have all the documents, but can I just suggest that maybe we respond minimally to what we see here? Because I see enough here to talk about without looking at the 3 gooseneck lights or whatever. Can we do that, or do we have to have everything? Kathleen, Jason, what do you think?
I have a, it'd be nice if Mr. Karask was here to weigh in, but I have a bit of a concern about discussing an application when there is one set of plans purported to be the most up to date, but we don't have them. It's one thing if they were submitted and it's just that, you know, for some reason or another, we're not able to pull them up on screen, but I have a concern about, you know, agreeing to representations made on the record if the planning department never received the correct plans.
Yeah, I guess in this case, it's a certificate of appropriateness.
Yes.
Which is a different thing than just making recommendations to zoning or the Board of Adjustment. So this is, our word is, you know,
Right.
the bottom line here. So it's probably good to have a more accurate set of drawings.
And there's no way to do screen sharing?
Yeah, unfortunately.
No, we can't do that.
Can we take 5 minutes? And if you
Well,
want to
Can
check
you email into Dennis
if you
now?
can confirm that that the correct plans were transmitted to the planning department, and if you can find them, then we'll go through no problem. If not, we will review the plans that are as is. You can make your representations about what the updated plan should be, and we'll carry the hearing to the next meeting. We'll make sure that the accurate plans are received, and we could just have a very, very quick review of those changes and grant the C of A at that time. So why don't we take a 5-minute recess to see if we can make sure we have the proper plans.
Well, all I can say is the original plans that we received, Jason, we received in September 28th. These digital, that's what the board received in their packages, I think. These were the subsequent plans. You can see the date of October 9th, which we received on October 14th. So this is what we received.
Yeah, the plans,
Right,
the hard
so
copy plans we have are September 10th.
Right, we, the client, forwarded the updated plans for inclusion in this hearing to the attorney on October 14th, and Allison will have to confirm whether or not her office forwarded them to you during this 5 minutes.
Okay. All right. So we're going to take a 5-minute recess, and then we'll come back and figure out how we're going to proceed.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone. received?
They were not.
Okay. All right. So what we can do is let's just move forward with the presentation, with the understanding that we'll get through as much as we can. We'll do our preliminary comments and deliberation. To the extent we can provide some recommendations, we can, and then we'll carry this to the next hearing once the plans are submitted, and then we can have just a quick hearing to cover the changes and vote on the C of A. Okay, Ms. Cassetta, again, you have the floor.
Thank you. And again, I apologize for the mix-up. If we could go back to Andrea. Andrea, aside from the finish and the portion inside the sort of vestibule, are the signs the same?
Yes, I believe the signs are the same.
Okay. So if you would go over the details of the signs for the commission, please.
Yep, if we want to scroll down, we have some sheets that are dedicated to the signage. So those were examples that the sign company provided. These sheets detail, and I apologize, we're not the signage company, so I can just speak to the overall concept of it being a pin-mounted sign. And then you can see the dimensions there, which meet the
And Andrea, did your
zoning criteria. Sorry?
That's okay. I was just going to ask you to confirm that your project team reviewed the proposed signs against the zoning ordinance and confirmed that it complies with all of the applicable requirements.
The signage contractors handle that portion of the review. So
But to the best of your knowledge, it's fully compliant.
To the best of our knowledge, it's compliant.
Thank you. And these signs are not internally illuminated, correct?
Correct.
And if you could, Janice, if I could ask you to scroll down, I think the next sheet details the blade sign. Yes, Andrea, if you could just talk about that very briefly.
Yes, so we saw that other storefronts along the Ave have blade signs, and so where we are proposing to remove the awning, we would like to put a blade sign up.
And again, care was taken to ensure that this sign complies with the zoning ordinance, correct?
Correct.
Thank you. I think that really covers the signage. Unless, Andrea, you think there's anything that we didn't cover, I'd recommend that the commissioners ask their questions about that aspect of the improvements.
Yes, I think that covers it for signage.
Any questions? And before we start, I assume there's going to be further testimony on the facade treatment.
Yes, Mr. Heineman, I'm just not sure how to proceed with the discrepancy in the plans. I can certainly have Andrea speak to it, but I don't know that you want her to do that without the accurate plan in front of you.
Well, to the extent you can speak to the plans is what's before us, and let us, I guess, preview what is different, what's proposed in the new plans.
Sure.
That's a start, and then once we see them in the new plans, we can confirm and vote on the C of A.
Sure. So Andrea, why don't you tell them about the wood finish that's proposed?
Okay, so we are proposing a Nichiha wood finish. It would be just on the facade of the building. The existing storefront system would be replaced. Below the storefront and the raised portion would remain the same, and that material would also be the same. I believe it needs to be patched or repaired. It's a black tile. The travertine that's on the floor going into the alcove is also being proposed to remain. Then we are proposing a white and blue mosaic tile on the large portion of the recessed alcove with the leaf logo.
So that's the detail that's not shown on this version of plans, correct? That's up on the screen?
Correct.
Okay. And we are preserving the entryway itself, correct?
Correct.
And we're also preserving the cornice and everything toward the top of the building facade?
Correct.
Thank you.
All right, I'll go ahead and open up the floor to the commissioners for questions, just keeping in mind that, you know, when we do have the final plans, we'll be able to review and ask additional questions on detail. But with respect to signage and the overall concept, I think we can start review on that. So, Caroline, do you want to? Do you have any questions?
Yes. Yes. I see. What does the recess do for you? I mean, it's there, I know, but it wasn't original to this building. And why do you want to keep it?
Sorry, this is Kate Crowther. Are you asking why the recessed doorway is still there?
Yes. And what does it do for your program, and why do you want to keep it?
Well, it does certainly offer a fair bit of control. So if people are queuing up in any way to get into the building, because you do have to be permitted access, it does keep people from standing on the sidewalk. I mean, it really, because it was this way when we acquired the license and have recently taken over operations of the dispensary. In all of our discussions about ways that we wanted to improve the exterior facade and the interior flow, we hadn't considered bumping out that doorway. I mean, it does add an element of security in terms of us being able to monitor who is specifically coming to the door and having them on camera, and then having it well lit so that it's not interfering with our cameras, so that we can see the individual. We can see people leaving. You know.
Can I make a comment?
Sure.
Just looking at this, you know.
I guess so. My point is, it's not detrimental. It hasn't been a huge point of discussion,
okay.
But yeah.
I think it's going to be a physical thing as well, because the street is sloping and the level of the interior floor is higher than the street level. So all these, in fact, we have a historic photo in the, again, in the handout from Graham that shows the recess was there. So when you say it wasn't there, it was there originally. I think you would have a hard time bringing the storefront out to the facade if you tried to do that, Caroline, because I think you have like a 4-inch rise. I don't think that's level, that recess. Is that correct? The floor is not level.
Correct.
Andrea, say again. I don't think they heard you.
Oh, sorry. That is correct.
This was a typical sort of arrangement going up and down Bloomfield Avenue, where they had these recesses, and they used the recess to sort of level out the change in grade.
This is Keith Betancourt. I want to add one small thing to that. That is 100% correct as far as the grade goes. It's also pulling the storefront forward would require that the door egress onto the sidewalk and therefore have the potential to hit pedestrians walking by. So the recess also serves that purpose.
Well, all the other storefronts in this building have recessed doors, but forward
They do.
storefronts.
They either have recessed doors. Yeah, they all have recessed doors. They may not all be recessed storefronts.
Right. The show windows are at the plane of the building and the doors are recessed.
Caroline, do you have any other questions?
Those were my questions. Oh, well, no. What? So in elevation, you're going to have storefront doors and windows. Can you pull up the elevation? Not just this rendering? So that's sort of an
I believe if you go back down, I think it's sheet 4.
Okay, so
HC 4 shows the elevation. Yep.
This is 3.
Oh, go back one.
Okay, so we have a door with 2 fixed windows, one on either side, and what's to the right and the left? What, these are solid, what are they going to be clad with?
To the right is the existing black metal, or it's a black tile. And then coming towards the street would be that mosaic tile. To the left, existing, we're keeping the existing. This does not show the existing raised storefront, which has the same black tile below and the bumped out storefront. The configuration would stay the same.
Right. And all right, so it's black tile. What's labeled as number 2? Where it's grayed out there, that's a black tile. And on the other side of it, it's a lighter gray. That's also a black tile.
No, it's not tile, it's glass. It's the same structural glass that's on the Hampton House. That's red now, but it's black.
Kind of a historic feature. I don't know. I don't have a photograph.
Yep,
So I
yep.
can't tell. All right, so you want to do some sort of an anodized aluminum storefront system with what color would the metal be? Black?
No, the metal would be the anodized aluminum.
So like a clear.
So it wouldn't have a finish. It would be.
Okay.
The glass itself would have a matte charcoal film over it.
Oh, so it's an opaque storefront. You won't be able to see through it.
Correct.
Okay. Is that more or less what's there now?
In terms of the opaque storefront?
Yes.
I don't know if we have a photo of the existing storefront in the design deck.
The picture that shows the street front as it is right now. So yeah, what it is right now is it's not lit. There had previously been used Christmas lights to provide lighting in that area. It is mostly blacked out. So it's not very pleasing or inviting the way that it is now. And so what we've proposed that you aren't able to see now, but even with these present renderings, is obviously much more conducive to the neighborhood, keeping in line with businesses that are open and friendly and ready to serve. as opposed to a bit foreboding.
So you're going to have
And
lights.
we've also added the 2 recessed can lights in the soffit overhead the alcove to, again, make it more inviting.
Okay. All right, those are my questions. You can ask someone else.
It's basically just all black paint, essentially, is what it looks like right now. It's not very nice.
May I go?
Go ahead. Caroline, you didn't have any more questions?
No, I'm done with.
Okay, Kathleen, go ahead.
Okay, so the photograph we have in the planning memo is actually a photograph from 1946. As stating in the planning memo, this building was built circa 1900. And that from that date, the original facade would be a brick facade. And I think you could see what we're looking at now on the screen, the upper left, that brick facade. If you took away those awnings, it's pretty, it's very uniform, the whole facade of that building. So my question is, yes, that's it. Thank you, Janice. Why have you looked at our design guidelines for the township of Montclair? And in the design guidelines, we do not support facing brick or masonry facade, especially if it's in good shape and if it works with the total building. So my question is, have you looked at that? And then if you have, how do you propose attaching these wooden slats to the existing brick facade? And what is the condition of the brick facade? Maybe you could speak to that as well.
Chairwoman Bennett, I just wanted to speak for a second. It's a lot of feedback. We have reviewed the design guidelines, and I think we'll punt that a little bit, but I'd like to first have Ms. Berardi discuss how this wood finish would be attached and the condition of the existing facade, because I think that's the initial question to be answered.
Keith, do you mind addressing this portion of attaching the Nichiha to the brick?
No, not at all. Yeah, so the wood, so the Nichiha siding would be attached in one of 2 ways. Well, first I can say from experience, the brick is in decent shape. I wouldn't say it's in disrepair by any stretch. It would need certainly some repair if we were to attempt to keep it. So the way the Nichiha siding will be applied, it'll be applied with clips that'll be fastened into each mortar joint. And those clips, then the siding itself will be attached to those clips. If the clips are something that we investigate and it's a little bit harder to do, we would put up a sheathing, which again would be fastened to the mortar joints to try to keep the brick intact, and then the siding would then be adhered to the sheathing.
And Keith, can you offer anything for the commission about why this finish was chosen rather than maintaining the brick?
Well, one of the reasons we chose this finish is a little bit of it's twofold really. One would be a branding element, a branding recognition for Ascend. This is a material that we've used nationwide for them. So we wanted to bring this material in as much as we could and to kind of give a little definition to the storefront, as it is a very tiny storefront and it is a little bit hidden. We also felt like the sign would have got lost on the brick unless we were to mess with their branding and change the color, which is not really something we wanted to do. So we attempted to avoid that. We did try to maintain as much of the brick facade as possible by aligning the top of the top of this knee-high wood finish with the awnings, removing the awnings, which are covering a lot of it anyway. And hopefully the idea was for it to be consistent in elevation appearance with the rest of the facade on the street.
So may I ask when you come back, do you have any examples? You spoke about branding. Do you have any examples that you could show us how you use this type of facade treatment with the branding in other locations?
Sure.
Thank you. Those are my questions.
I will also add that you'll notice the sign I believe in these pictures of the street. There was also a desire. So yeah, it's the one where like CBD is painted on the windows. There is a desire also to separate us from our neighbors in ensuring that when people are coming to our location, that they are coming there specifically and purposefully as a patient to purchase their product. So yeah, that one, the Eclectic Cafe. We have had instances of people being confused between that location and the dispensary location, not sure which was the door to enter, exit, were they combined, things of that nature.
And if I could, our professional planner did take a detailed look at the design guidelines. So if it's okay, I'd like to ask him to just spend a few minutes talking about his analysis of those guidelines and how we comply with them.
Jason, aren't we in questions right now, or are they still making a presentation?
We're in questions.
Okay.
Well, I think that was, I apologize, but that was in response to one of the chair's questions. She had asked specifically about the design guidelines.
Okay. We know what the design guidelines are, but go ahead.
Yeah, this is Keenan Hughes. I mean, the only thing I would add, and this will be very brief, you've just heard from representatives of the operator their rationale for this proposed design. Obviously, we're aware of the design guidelines relative to preserving the historic fabric of storefronts wherever possible. I think, in my opinion, this is striking the right balance in terms of preserving the decorative brick, the cornice, sort of the upper features of this particular building in the brick, while still achieving their objectives for the actual storefront itself, in terms of creating a more welcoming environment, as well as something that's identifiable with this particular brand. So that's all I would add from my perspective.
And just one follow-up. We did notice two other storefronts very close to this one that have wooden finishes over the front, or at least parts of the front facade, correct?
Yes, wood has been used on other storefronts in town. In fact, this somewhat similar wood paneling, albeit vertical, I think in a couple of other examples, does exist on other storefronts along Bloomfield Avenue.
Yeah.
Kathleen, did you have any other questions? No. Steve?
The only thing that I was interested in was not wrapping the wood column or brick columns. That's what keeps this entire little building together. And even though they may be separate buildings, that's the only thing I'm interested in. I don't really care about anything beyond the face of the building itself.
So, Mr. Rooney, what you're suggesting is if we just had the wood finish on the sign band, so to speak, and not on the columns?
Let's do questions.
Sign band only, and the recesses, or whatever you're going to do there. It sounds like you're going to do black, blue and white tile.
Just wanted to make sure I understood.
So was the question whether that was feasible or?
I don't think it's a difference of it being feasible. The structure underneath it is there, and either covered or not. And I just preferred that they didn't.
So I think what I would propose is that that since we have to continue this to another meeting anyways, that we do a rendering where the brick is exposed, but the other elements that we're proposing are in place. And then we also give you the full facade that we're proposing. I personally, and I'm not married to this design, it's not mine, but personally, aesthetically, just the way that the brick is done and the segmentation with the cement and stuff, I don't know that it would look as nice as we would want it to. But of course, we defer to your judgment.
Can we finish with questions, please?
John, do you have any questions?
Yes, I have a couple questions. One is the applied wood facade. Here's the question. Where is the property line? Is the property line at the face of the existing brick? And are you sitting over the property line with applying, sounds like 1.5 inches of either some sort of furring and some sort of finish? Where do you know where the property line is?
No, unfortunately, we do not. My understanding is it's a few inches off of the storefront now, but we'd have to refer to a civil drawing for that.
I have a civil drawing. I don't have it pulled up at the moment.
I mean, this is a common problem up and down Bloomfield Avenue when people want to do things or apply new materials or thin brick or anything or new brick, they find that they're over the property line. That's really,
there might
I
do be the same. We did have to seek landlord approval for this, and I do believe it's the same owner. We can double check that.
Okay, it's not a matter of the owner, it's really a matter of the being over the property line into the town right away. But can I ask you a question? Looking at this photograph or this rendering on the right, what happens just beyond the face, the upper face behind this? Does it return up underneath, or is there a ceiling that runs straight back to the storefront?
Yeah, there's a ceiling.
That's flush with the bottom of this facade?
Yes, and it aligns with the top of the storefront.
Okay, because in the other, going up the street, the awnings actually cover glass that rises higher to a taller opening. So again, just to understand this, you're going to bring the from the below ascend, the sign ascend, that soffit will run straight back. What is that going to be made out of?
That's going to be go ahead. Go ahead, Adrian.
Sorry. It would be weatherproof gypped ceiling. It would just be painted white.
Because from a pedestrian point of view, you see that as much as you're walking by, you see that as much as any surface that you see here. But that's just a comment. I have other comments. My questions are complete at the moment.
Mr. Greenbaum, do you have any questions?
there?
I'm looking. I don't see him. I don't know if he got logged off. Yeah, I don't see him logged in anymore. Mr. Connolly, do you have any questions or comments that you would like to give?
Yeah, I actually do. I just want to make the applicant and the HPC aware of the commercial design guidelines for the township. So under 3.1 storefronts, under number 1, it says do not cover or conceal historic storefront components with modern materials. So just by that, I think this, what is stated here or what is shown here, goes against the guidelines. This building is one building with 4 bays. And if we look at the, I guess the applicant's drawing that shows the signs, by covering the brick piers on either side of the storefront, this store now kind of stakes more facade claim than the other 3 storefronts. The stores are between these brick piers for the other 3, but this one with the proposed material over those piers kind of makes this one bay of the 4 seem larger, which, you know, maybe is their goal, but it knocks the symmetry of all 4 bays out of whack. I believe this storefront was restored, if I remember correctly, about 25 years ago. And I thought they did a great job. And by covering over the brick now, like I said, goes against the historic design guidelines. And that was it.
Thank you, Mr. Connolly. Before we adjourn, any other comments from the commissioners? And we'll start it off with Mr. Reinitz.
I think this would be much more successful if all the new, I could imagine this is like peeling an orange. You know, you have the outside and then you reveal what's inside. If all the wood finishes and all the new branding happen just, you know, 4 inches beyond inside the outside facade, this would be this I think would be so much more successful. I would be very much against covering up the existing stone and brick. I'm not sure. I heard someone say something about the existing brick needs repair. I don't know that. I'd have to look very closely at that. I don't see any evidence of that. And those would be my comments at the moment. That's sort of such a big general comment that might give you some guidelines in terms of how I would comment on this, even if you come back a month from now with more accurate renderings. So that's it. That's my comment.
Mr. Rooney?
I think that I agree very much with John, and that this is kind of a preliminary, and it's an interesting sort of idea, but to me it looks like it works well in a shopping mall, but not on this street. And I think that they can come up with something much better.
Ms. Kane-Levy?
I agree with that. I would not support plating the historic masonry. So, you know, a sign ban with their logo and their branding material, I can accept that, but everything else, you know, I know that cladding is problematic.
Chair Bennett?
Yes, I concur with my colleagues, and I'm very much opposed to covering up the brick. I think the facade of the brick facade is quite beautiful. And I think if we really look at it, we'll see that it's in pretty good shape. So I look forward to seeing what they come back with. I look forward to seeing what is proposed for that interior vestibule, especially with that mosaic. That should be interesting. Thank you.
Yeah, I share the concerns and opinions of my fellow commissioners. Regarding the applicant's concerns about differentiating between the two different storefronts, I believe a lot of those issues are remedied by removing the awning and rebranding. You know, part of the confusion is that it's two different storefronts with the same name. It's Greenleaf Eclectic Cafe and Greenleaf Compassion Center. There's it's an apparent connection that could confuse. So I think by removing that awning and rebranding, you've achieved that goal without having to add all that faux wood trim, which really it's actually really jarring and kind of destroys the cohesiveness of this building. So yeah, I definitely recommend modifying that and perhaps limiting that wood treatment to a sign band in the next iteration. So that being said, if there aren't any other comments, I'll entertain a motion to carry this to our next meeting, which is our next regular meeting is November
19th.
November 19th, and please have hard copies of the plans and the digital copies 10 days in advance, which would be November 9th.
Can I just ask a quick clarifying question for me to take back to the sign company? So I just want to be clear that it's the street columns. You do not want to see wood paneling there. The sign as proposed, the wood behind the sign, that is fine. I don't disagree with the comment regarding the removal of the awning and that offering differentiation. We do have gooseneck lighting, obviously, that needs to be shown differently than even was on here with the sign that we've proposed. But we're really talking about that exterior wood paneling. And my question is specifically about I'm using wood paneling as a catch-all, even though that's not the correct term. The interior and the vestibule, those side walls, are you okay with the material there, or would you like to see, I mean, you can see that in current existing conditions, it's painted all black. There's nothing really to preserve in that location.
My opinion, to answer that, my opinion would be, again, that analogy of peeling the orange or the onion. Leave the facade, brick facade alone. As soon as you get 6 inches beyond the facade, it could be anything. It could be the whole new world that you're creating.
Okay, understood. I see the jog, and we will respect that. Understood. Thank you.
So that sort of wraps the corner. There's like a limestone bed in the center. And
Caroline, I'm having some trouble hearing you. Can you repeat yourself?
Just the front, it wraps the corner to the front. It will be applied.
You're going in and out. I'm sorry.
I am understanding her point though, and that is the jog I was referring to, that it's the exterior and then it does wrap around and then the blacked out wall or whatever is there begins at that point. So her point is taken.
May I just ask another question? The area that you're discussing right now in the vestibule that's painted black, is that brick that's painted black? Do you know?
Keith might be able to answer that question. I've only been there one time. I don't believe it's brick. I believe my impression was it was. Go ahead.
Do you know, Tom?
Yeah.
No, I don't. But from the photograph, it looks like it is the structural glass or Carrera glass.
Okay, from the photograph.
The one in the bottom right here, the existing conditions. Could we enlarge that? Could we enlarge that photograph in the bottom right?
This one here? Oh.
Andrea or Keith might know what material is in there.
Which is a remnant of the 1946 facade.
So yeah, this one right here. You could just enlarge that one on the bottom right. Yep. Yeah, that looks like glass to me.
Yeah, I believe it's a display window box.
On the right-hand side of the storefront, the end, or the one that's between the two stores? That right there where the cursor is.
That.
Yeah, I think that's glass. And it's in the, actually, if you look at the plan, it's not a window box.
It's a wall, isn't it, Tom?
Yeah, I believe so.
If you scroll into, if you go up to HC 03 and scroll into the photo that shows CBD, it might give you a better picture.
Well, my point is, if we can't determine what it is now, you should be able to determine on an on-site visit. And if that's the case, then the Carrara glass that is on that wall is something that, as I said before, is from the what is it? The 1940s, when they did this, the renovation of that storefront. So I'm just thinking, that's part of the fabric of the building, that maybe you could work it into what you're proposing for the vestibule.
Yeah, on my screen with the original photo, it looks like it's brick that has been painted black, but we can confirm that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's just the tenant separation wall to the next tenant to the left.
So my follow-up question to that is, if it is painted brick, does that change the conversation about what you would want us to do with the vestibule?
No, not in my case. I mean, this is a discussion amongst the different commissioners, but I'll keep going back to me, the beauty of this building is the outside. I guess it returns there about 9 inches or so, is the outside facade. Beyond, going in beyond that point, I think could be almost anything you want to do. That would be my opinion.
But we look forward to what you propose the next time.
Okay, so
we appreciate your time.
Can I get a motion to carry this to the November 19th meeting.
I make a motion to carry this application to the November 19th meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? No response heard. No, any abstentions? No response is heard. The application is so carried, so this should be the first item in old business in the next meeting.
Thank you for your time this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for waiting late into the evening.
Yeah, boy.
So that was the last item on this agenda. So, you know, before I entertain a motion to adjourn, I just wanted to open up the floor very briefly to discussions that were had during the two zoning board referrals about the applications and the lack of information that was provided for our review. And I just want to reiterate the point that, and as Janice said as well, you know, these are for bulk variances, and the requirements for them to complete their applications are, it's very different than what we would require for a C of A. And to the extent that we want additional materials at the outset, that's something we need to talk to the council about in terms of amending the ordinance that sets the checklist for applications. You know, we could ask them for a provision that when it's in a historic district or potential historic district, provide the information that we need.
Yeah, I understand that, Jason. The only thing I would say is if I was an architect coming before the Historic Preservation Commission of any community, I would come prepared to answer all questions about materials, what things look like, and what the proposal is. Even, you know, otherwise, what are you doing? You might as well just not come. And if it's just, if we can't comment on anything, so.
Totally agree. So moving forward in terms of how we handle these, you know, so we're not rehashing these frustrations every time.
Yes,
you know,
I
let's
agree.
start thinking about standard recommendations, standard language that we just throw into these reports. You know, so it, you know, they go to the zoning board with a report saying, you know, they're not providing what they need to provide, and you know, hopefully they'll learn and provide it at the outset.
Well, you know, I spend a lot of time looking at these drawings, so I think we could just keep it simple and say the provided drawings don't comply with the design guidelines.
Except Tom, the whole point Jason's making is these are really applications to the zoning board and the Board of Adjustment. And the requirements for those applications are less than, say, yeah.
For the most part, the variances that they're seeking, we have no problem with. It's just the level of detail. So
I agree.
We could say, you know, for the variances that they're seeking, we're okay with it, but they must come back because what they're proposing architecturally doesn't jive with the guidelines.
I guess the question is, how do you force applicants to come before us with, so we're not wasting our time. They have the information we need. I don't know if we have to depend on the zoning board of adjustment and, or the Board of Adjustment and zoning to, when they refer, they say to these applicants, you need to go now to HPC and provide them with X, Y, Z. You know, I don't know.
But our application that we worked on 2 years ago, Caroline, you worked on that. The application to the HPC, that we require that in that application.
That doesn't apply to referrals.
No, I understand that, Janice, but perhaps with a referral, if they know that they need to have that information to come before us so that we're not wasting our time, that at least they thought their project through. I mean,
But they're not making application to you, that you don't have it's your advisory only. You don't have the
Right.
leverage to require them to provide that level of information when it's advisory.
But then we have to sit here and tease out what they actually mean, which takes up, I mean, it's after 11 o'clock now.
But the planning board does. Can you just provide that to the planning board or materials checklist and tell them,
right,
and have the planning board require it?
They can't, I mean, they can suggest it, but they can't require it because the checklist is set by ordinance.
Right. Well, I could see if it was a suggestion, and then maybe people, I mean, we're starting to see more and more applications that are coming before us that really don't have enough information for us to make I keep saying educated decision. But,
or suggestion.
The majority of the bulk variances that are going before the boards don't require that level of detail. So I think in the instances where it is sent to you for referral, I think it makes sense to if it does get approved by the Board of Adjustment on the variance, they come back to you and they provide you the level of detail that you need after they've got their approval. It would be a condition. So I think it does work. It's just that we can't require every applicant to provide that level of detail as part of a bulk variance.
Before they have that variance is what you're saying. Yeah. Okay, but then it should be a condition that they do need to come back and comply.
Right. I think that works really, really well.
Okay. So what do we say then? We could go just say, let's not spend any time on this. If people come before us and that we don't have the information, we just say, go forth, but you have to come back and comply with all the design guidelines and all the things we need to see, and then we'll comment on it.
Right, but I do think you give them guidance, like for instance, with the garage, with the variance for the pool in the front yard.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't provide that applicant. He didn't provide the detail that you needed, but he was able to get the guidance from you. So after he gets his approval, I assume he will before the zoning board, he can come back to you with the details addressing all the ideas that you gave ahead of time. So I think I do think it works well.
I hear you. It just seems like we're spending a lot of time trying to understand what people are even proposing. And maybe we shouldn't even be asking. We should just look at it and then give them advice and forget about what they're saying.
Exactly.
Forget what they're saying. Just look at their application and comment on it. And we don't need a presentation from them, really, because they're not telling us anything. They've gone for the bulk variance, and I understand that. But if they haven't designed it, then we don't really need a presentation, I don't think.
For the three applications that we looked at tonight, we ended up basically with almost jiving with everything I said on my reviews.
Yeah.
I mean, it took an hour to get there, but we ended up right where I suggested we go.
So yeah, in the future, let's try and streamline these things. Janice is going to prepare, 2 referrals that are going to incorporate those conditions. We'll take a look at them, and to the extent that we need to rework them so they're general conditions that we can apply anytime these types of applications come up, then I think that'll speed this process up, and we can save a lot of time trying to tease out.
I think yeah, I agree.
Move through it.
I think we could come up with just a checklist. This is not there. This is not there. That done.
Right.
So it could be just a written checklist of things. They didn't come with whatever. They didn't come with a list of materials. They didn't come with cut sheets of lighting. They didn't come with, I don't know. I think we could make a checklist.
That's all in my memos.
Yeah. Well.
Okay.
Tom, are you suggesting we don't need to be here? We just need to read your memos, and we could save a lot of time.
No, I don't want to be the designer. I'm just trying to,
Yeah.
trying to guide you. That's all. I read.
I'm joking. I'm joking with you.
Yeah. I do read. I compare this to the Secretary of Interior standards. I compare it to your design guidelines. I compare it to traditional building, and the districts that they're in. So, and I do visit every one of these properties.
Mm-hmm.
So I try to do a lot of this work for you. That's what I'm here for.
Thanks very much.
Appreciate it. So that being said, 11:10. Can I get a motion to adjourn? Second. All in favor? Aye.
We'll see you guys.
All right.
See you guys in
Good night.
Thanks, Janice. Appreciate
You're
it.
welcome.
Hey, Janice. All right.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
Thanks, Janice. Appreciate